Here.
Here. Here.
Here. As we consider items on today's agenda, are there board members who wish to declare any conflicts of interest regarding today's open session agenda?
This is Mike
Hearing
Jones.
none,
If I could
let's
just
proceed.
interrupt.
Sorry?
I'd like to, it's Mike Jones. I just want to recognize that I am here. I
Mike.
could not hear the roll call. Hi. I couldn't hear the roll call.
Okay. Glad to have you with us. Well, welcome everyone to UW-Eau Claire and the first meeting of the new academic year. I would like to express our sincere thanks to our host, Chancellor Schmidt, his team, and the Blue Gold campus community for their tremendous hospitality. As they prepared something special to kick off today's meeting, we're privileged to welcome the ROTC Color Guard, who will present the colors. Members of this guard include Alex Bartle, Max Lorenz, Gretchen Petrosek, Philip Vanagan, and Daniel Rivera. Following presentation of the colors, we will hear the Star Spangled Banner as performed by Mitchell Krieger, a senior pursuing his Bachelor of Music Education in Choral Teaching, and Ashley Terrell, a senior who will graduate with her Bachelor of Music in Applied Voice. At this time, I'm going to ask everyone to please rise.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night
Statesmen under direction of Chris McGinley, Assistant Professor of Choral Music. The singing statement have a proud history at UW-Eau Claire dating back to their founding in 1966. And we're very privileged to have them with us today. Now I'd like to invite Chancellor Schmidt to the podium.
So I'd like to start with our land acknowledgement statement. We acknowledge that the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire occupies the sacred and ancestral lands of Indigenous people on our Eau Claire, Rice Lake, and Marshfield campuses. Our histories are forever entwined, including storied gatherings of Native people by the Chippewa River. We honor that tradition of civil exchange and the meeting of minds today as we gather on this historic land, just steps away from the Council Oak. And we extend our respect and recognition to the earlier and present citizens of the land, the Menominee, Ho-Chunk, Potawatomi, Ojibwa, and Dakota nations on which our campuses stand.
Thank you, Chancellor Schmidt. Before we proceed, I believe President Rothman has some introductions.
I do, and thank you, President Walsh, and good afternoon. It's my pleasure to introduce Brenda Jones, the new Vice Chancellor for Administrative Affairs at UW-Whitewater. In this role, Brenda has oversight over financial planning and business operations, human resources, risk management, capital construction and renovation, as well as safety and police services. You can tell Brenda is going to be busy. Brenda comes to us from the Milwaukee Institute of Art and Design, MIAD, where she has served as Vice President for Financial Affairs since 2009. She previously held controller and accounting roles in a variety of organizations, including educational institutions, accounting firms, and city government. A certified public accountant, Brenda holds CPA professional memberships at the state and national level. She earned her master's degree in business administration from UW-Milwaukee and a bachelor's degree in accounting and finance from UW-Oshkosh. An award-winning professional, she has been honored by the Milwaukee Journal as CFO of the Year in Higher Education and has been named among the notable women in higher education by Biz Times Media. Welcome, Brenda, and we look forward to working with you. And I see you're standing over there, so please give Brenda a hand. Now it is my pleasure to recognize two people whom you likely know, but are now serving in new roles. First, as I announced previously, we have renewed our organizational structure at UW System Administration and its alignment with our overall mission. As a result, we are in the process of consolidating our Office of Finance and the Office of Administration and UW Shared Services into a single Office of Finance and Administration. Sean Nelson, previously the Vice President of Finance, will now lead these joint operations as the new Vice President for Finance and Administration. Sean joined the UW system in 2017 after holding a similar role for the Massachusetts State Universities and Community Colleges. Before entering higher education, he was a Chief Financial Officer for the Boston Public Library. Sean received a master's degree from Tufts University and an undergraduate degree from the University of Massachusetts at Amherst. Sean, would you please stand and be recognized? Further moves as part of that consolidation, the Office of Risk Management will now become part of the Office of Compliance and Integrity portfolio, reporting to Chief Compliance Officer Paige Smith. At this time, I'd also like to recognize Jeff Brandt, our new Vice President for University Relations. Jeff was named Interim VP of University Relations in July of 2021 and now assumes the permanent position after a recently concluded search. Jeff has been with the UW system for 8 years, first serving as Director of State Relations. Prior to joining the UW system, he worked for 8 years in the Wisconsin State Senate after beginning his career working in the office of longtime Wisconsin Congressman Dave Obey. Jeff has a bachelor's degree from UW-Stevens Point and a master's degree from UW-Milwaukee. As head of university relations, he will be responsible for coordinating government relations, communications, business community outreach, and economic development activities. And Jeff, I don't know why they dimmed the lights when I was announcing this. Would you please stand and be recognized? all look forward to doing great work with our colleagues in the years ahead. And that concludes my introductions, President Walsh.
Thank you, President Rothman. The records of the August 18, 19, 2022 regular meeting of the UW System Board of Regents have been provided. May I have a motion to approve these records?
So moved.
There a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Now I have a brief update on our two Chancellor search processes. Beginning with UW-Whitewater, the Search and Screen Committee held a series of listening sessions earlier this month to hear valuable and important feedback from members of the campus and the surrounding community about what qualities the search committee should be looking for in the next Chancellor. The Search and Screen Committee, chaired by Regent Vice President Amy Bogus, will meet again in October to select and interview semi-finalist candidates. Turning to UW-Platteville, earlier this week we announced the members of the UW-Platteville Chancellor Search and Screen Committee. Regent Chris Peterson will serve as chair of the committee, and Christina Curris, professor and chair of the Civil and Environmental Engineering Department, will serve as vice chair. Other committee members include faculty, staff, student, and community representatives, as well as Regents Scott Bechtel, Mike Jones, Rodney Posh, and Brianna Tucker. The committee will meet to receive its charge, finalize the search prospectus, and hold listening sessions on campus during the coming weeks. Both searches are expected to be complete early next year. As many of you know, I have a long-standing interest and passion for animal welfare. I would like to call your attention to a rather extraordinary new mural now on display at UW-Madison's School of Veterinary Medicine. The artwork was created by Milwaukee artist Tia Richardson. It was commissioned as part of the Iverson Bell Midwest Regional Diversity Summit. The biennial summit is named for the first African-American veterinarian to hold the position of vice president in the American Veterinary Medical Association. The goal of the summit, which includes 7 major colleges of veterinary medicine in the upper Midwest, is to promote diversity and inclusion in the field. And it's a field that we badly need more folks to enter. In keeping with that goal, the theme of this year's summit, which was hosted in May by UW-Madison for the first time, was From Talk to Action, Becoming a Change Agent on Your Campus. The mural really was a collaborative effort. Last spring, Tia held community sessions with faculty, staff, and students at the vet school to talk about veterinary medicine and get their ideas on what should be part of the mural. And you're seeing sections of the mural here on the screens. During the summit, participants also had the opportunity to help paint the mural. Overall, about 250 individuals had a hand in making this mural happen, with Tia providing the finishing touches. It's a wonderful tribute both to veterinary medicine and the spirit of working together to get things done. And I see my vice president is not back yet. I'll hold that announcement. Oh, she did. Okay. So you may have noticed that our vice president is not here with us. Regent Bogus had to leave early because she's headed to Milwaukee to receive a very prestigious award. She has been awarded membership in the Fellows of the Wisconsin Law Foundation. It's a professional honor in the extreme and evidence of professional distinction. This is a Fellows organization created in 1999 as a special means to honor members of the State Bar of Wisconsin, both who've achieved significant accomplishments in their career and contributed leadership and service in their communities. In addition to this recognition, the fellows aim to energize the members to continue their efforts in the promotion of justice, advancement of the profession, and improvement of legal education. And we are fortunate indeed to have Regent Bogus on the Board of Regents. A round of applause congratulating. I would now like to provide a look ahead to our next meeting, a one-day session on November 10th in Madison. As part of that meeting, we can look forward to hearing from national and local leaders of Hillel, the world's largest Jewish student organization, about how higher education institutions can serve and accommodate students from different religious backgrounds, as well as address the increased incidence of anti-Semitic behavior that is occurring on campuses nationwide. I look forward to this board having productive discussions on the topic at the November meeting. That concludes my report. Back to you, President Rothman.
Great, thanks very much. As you know, this is the first meeting of the new academic year, and there is a lot going on. Last week I had the privilege to be part of the installation of Tom Gibson as the 15th Chancellor of UW-Stevens Point. I know a good number of my colleagues around the table and in this audience today were there as well. These celebrations are important markers for the university and its community members as we recognize the vital connections that leaders like Chancellor Gibson build and foster both on and off campus. And there's more to come. On October 14th, we will be at UW-Stout, where Chancellor Catherine Frank will celebrate her investiture. And then on October 20th, we will be at UW-River Falls for Chancellor Maria Gallo's inauguration. In all three cases, the ceremonies were delayed due to the pandemic, and our so-called quote-unquote new chancellors actually have considerable time at the helm already behind them and plenty of accomplishments to their credit. So my congratulations to our three chancellors who are either gone through the investiture, the inauguration, or installation, whichever you would prefer. But Tom, Catherine, and Maria, why don't you just stand and be recognized, if you would. Earlier this month, I wrapped up my tour of all 13 universities in the UW system. In a little bit over, I didn't quite hit my timeline of doing it in my first 100 days, but we came close. It's been a fascinating journey, and I appreciate the willingness and openness of all of our chancellors, faculty, staff, and students and community members to share their passion for UW and higher education as we look at the opportunities and challenges that lie ahead. I also appreciate their willingness to really give me in-depth tours of their universities. It was really a great experience. As we work to craft a new strategic plan for the UW system, which we will talk about a little bit later this afternoon, that dialogue back and forth and learning has been most instructive. Just wanted to share a couple takeaways from my tour. When I came into my role, I came in with immense respect for the impact that this system has on our state, and I have now walked away with that measure of respect exponentially higher. It is really an incredible institution, as all of you know. We know that our programs are relevant and responsive to helping Wisconsin's employment needs, and we need to continue to focus on that. Our research enterprise, and you'll hear a little bit about that this afternoon from Chancellor Mnookin when we're discussing the strategic plan, is changing lives. And getting undergraduates involved in those endeavors as well enhances their educational experience and ultimately outcomes. The commitment of our faculty and staff to our students and to the overall mission is simply flat out awesome. Full stop. And finally, we are living the Wisconsin idea in those 13 universities. It's not just a theoretical premise, but it is truly a promise in action. On a related note, and speaking of the students, we also concluded our 100 student stories in a 100-day project. By the time the project ended, we had racked up some impressive engagement numbers with almost 277,000 views and clicks overall between Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. What sticks in my mind, though, about those story projects is the profound difference the UW is making in the lives of students. It is something we can and should be very proud of. Those students are extraordinary, and they're going to do great things in the generations to come. Last week, I had the opportunity to take our UW story to Washington, where I had the opportunity to meet with members of Wisconsin's federal delegation and their staffs, and we had productive conversations about the value that the UW system brings not only within the state, but nationally and globally. I encouraged our legislators to continue their support efforts to fund fully student financial aid programs and research efforts. It makes a real difference. I was pleased to find them engaged on topics like the Tuition Promise Program, our Freedom of Expression Survey, and on our need to graduate more students to fill the workforce needs of Wisconsin. I look forward to enhancing our work on the federal level and hope to have continued conversations with these members in the months and years ahead. With the 2022-2023 school year now officially underway, our attention has been turned to enrollment numbers. Final figures won't be available for a while, but our preliminary projections indicate that across the UW system, we have the largest incoming class since at least 2018. First day estimates for the fall term showed 26,422 first-year students enrolled, including freshmen and first-year transfers. That's up over 2021's enrollment and up over 840 students over 2018. Overall enrollment dropped about 1%, or about 1,500 students, including about 500 at the branch campuses, and the remainder were at the main campuses. This was not unexpected. I think that's an important point to note, because we have 2 classes now in our schools that were enrolled and admitted during the pandemic, and that had a depressing impact on enrollment numbers, not surprisingly. The good news is that that first-year incoming class is growing again, and we hope we're moving in the right direction. 3 of our universities, UW-Green Bay, UW-Madison, and UW-Superior, are showing an overall increase in total enrollment this fall. They are up. UW-La Crosse is even, and the enrollments at the other universities are estimated to decrease slightly, but again, reflective of the fact that we have a sophomore and junior class that were recruited, enrolled, and admitted during a pandemic. You know, looking at the big picture, our first-year enrollment uptick this fall is truly encouraging. We will continue to demonstrate to students, parents, and the public that there's no better value than the UW system and the education the system provides. And quite frankly, and we'll talk about this when we talk about the strategic plan today, Wisconsin really needs us. We need to be graduating more students to fulfill jobs, because if we don't do that, those jobs are going to go somewhere else. Supporting students once they are on campus is always a priority. So I'm happy to share some long-awaited news that promises to bring relief to the rise in mental health concerns among our students. Thanks to one-time funding provided by Governor Evers from the American Rescue Plan Act, and after a successful RFP process that considered 14 different proposals, we are finalizing an agreement with Mantra Health to provide telemental health and well-being services to students as a supplement to our on-campus services. The project will support all campuses except UW-Madison, which has pursued its own arrangements for mental health services. Mantra will partner with UW College and D.D. Hirsch Crisis Services to provide 24/7 support and crisis management, telecounseling, and telepsychiatry appointments, and evidence-based online self-help information and resources. Services are expected to go live in time for the spring 2023 semester, and the contract will run for 2 years, with an option to renew for a 3rd year. During this time, students should experience improved access to both prevention and treatment resources, helping them address their needs in a more timely manner and providing much-needed relief to overburdened campus services. This really couldn't come at a better time, as the mental health impact of the pandemic and other issues continue to linger. We will be carefully monitoring the success of these services as we continue to assess how to best meet the mental health and well-being needs of our students over the long term. UW system today, in fact, is kicking off a campaign where applications can be started on October 1st to encourage students to complete the free application for federal student aid, or FAFSA. This is the first step for students to gain access to the Wisconsin Tuition Promise, a UW system program that starts in the fall of 2023 to help underserved students obtain a degree tuition-free at UW universities. To put the need for such a campaign in perspective, consider this. The National College Attainment Network currently ranks Wisconsin 38th with regard to FAFSA completion, with 50% of our high school seniors from the class of 2021 completing the form. That means we are in the bottom 3rd in the country in terms of FAFSA completion. We have to do better than that. That's what this campaign is about. The campaign will include ads on social media sites, including Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, with informational links directing students and parents to a new UW Help website dedicated to FAFSA. That website will provide more information on how to get started with the FAFSA, campus contact information, and what to expect after completing the form. The campaign will run through February of 2023. The week of October 17th through the 21st has been designated National Transfer Student Week, and the UW system will take that opportunity to tout our transfer-friendly environment and encourage students to consider UW for part of their higher education experience. You can expect to see this across our social media platforms. As we've discussed at recent meetings, the UW system has been very engaged in facilitating transfers as part of our ongoing work to grow the number of college graduates in our state. And finally, and this is the fun part, I am really pleased to recognize several significant recent accomplishments in our UW system family. The American Association of State Colleges and Universities, known as ASCU, is recognizing 7 universities nationwide at its upcoming 2022 Excellence and Innovation Awards. They're recognizing 7. 2 of them are UW system schools. 2 out of 7 nationally. That is extraordinary. UW-La Crosse will receive the ASCU Excellence and Innovation Award for Civic Learning and Community Engagement. UWL's Community Engaged Learning Program gained momentum since being introduced before the fall 2021 semester. In the first 5 months, 19 course sections received the Community Engaged Learning designation, allowing 315 students to assist with about 36 businesses, nonprofits, or civic organizations. The primary intent of the program is to give students real-world experience to help them grow their skills while making them more marketable to future employers. The program is also important in building strong relationships between students and La Crosse organizations. Congratulations, Chancellor Gao, and to the entire team at UW-La Crosse. And not to be outdone, UW-Parkside will receive ASCU's 2022 Excellence and Innovation Award for Student Success and College Completion, a testament to years of strategic efforts at that university. UW-Parkside continues to set historic records for the number of graduates, due in part to expanding academic programs that now include new online and master's programs. The university is recognized as having one of the nation's 10 fastest growing master's populations among small colleges and universities. To continue to address gaps in educational attainment, UW-Parkside joined the Moonshot for Equity, the nation's first public-private consortium to mitigate graduation gaps among students of color and white students. This university is also focused on student success through its work within the Higher Education Regional Alliance, an 18-institution collaborative to improve student success and employer access to talent in Southeast Wisconsin. Congratulations to Chancellor Debbie Ford and again the UW-Parkside team for this great honor. What I love, and you may not be able to see it, but the chancellors are turning back and pointing to their provost. So I think it is ultimately a team effort, so that's fantastic. And one other note from UW-Parkside, Director of Athletics Andrew Garvin has been named a National Association of College Directors of Athletics Cushman and Wakefield Athletic Director of the Year Award for 2021-2022. Andrew, who joined Parkside in 2017, is one of only 4 winners nationwide from NCAA Division II. Congratulations on that great honor as well. And then finally, the America's Small Business Development Center is honoring 3 Wisconsin SBDC professionals with their inaugural 40 Under 40 Awards, recognizing their leadership in helping small businesses start and grow. Heather Ferguson, a program manager, or the 3 honorees are Heather Ferguson, a program manager with the SBDC at UW-Madison, Cody Ova, a marketing and communications specialist with the SBDC State Office, and Zia Yang, an outreach specialist with the SBDC at UW-Stevens Point. Speaking on the impressive national recognition, Bon Wickenheiser, State Director of the Wisconsin WBDC, said, and I quote, "Their efforts in support of the state's small businesses demonstrate the strength of Wisconsin's next generation of leaders," end quote. That's some great recognition. The Wisconsin SBDC is hosted by the UW system under the Institute for Business and Entrepreneurship. It is funded in part through a cooperative agreement with the U.S. Small Business Administration. The Wisconsin SBDC network offers no-cost, confidential consulting and business education to new and existing businesses through 14 centers across the state. In 2021, the SBDC served almost 7,000 clients, resulting in nearly $120 million of capital being raised, 292 new businesses, and more than 24,000 jobs supported. Congratulations to our Wisconsin SBDC winners. And with that, President Walsh, back to you.
Thank you very much, President Rothman. We'll now turn the floor over to our host, Chancellor James Schmidt.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you, Regent President Walsh. Welcome to UW-Eau Claire, Regents, President Rothman, UW system staff, chancellors, provosts, and guests. I want to thank, even though they won't hear it, the color guard, the couple that sang the national anthem, Mitchell and Ashley, and our wonderful singing statesmen for the opening of this afternoon session. We are known as Wisconsin's Singing University because, as you heard, we like to sing. You'll be treated to more music and singing later this evening at the Pablo Arts Center when we share the Wisconsin premiere of an original piece created by a member of our English and music faculty. The last time the Regents were hosted at our campus, we were celebrating our centennial, 100 years of serving Wisconsin by preparing students for lives of purpose. The 26 campuses that comprise the University of Wisconsin system were created to serve the public good. The strength of our system is that we do it in unique and different ways. Here in western Wisconsin, UW River Falls, UW Stout, and UW-Eau Claire have very different missions. I like to say that the only place we compete is on the football field, and lately they've been cleaning up the Blue Golds. But we're each serving the public good through different missions. Today, I'd like to share with you some of the distinctive ways in which UW-Eau Claire fulfills our mission to the state of Wisconsin. It's a mission that inspired me since the day I stepped foot on campus almost 10 years ago. We foster in one another creativity, critical insight, empathy, and intellectual courage, the hallmarks of a transformative liberal education and the foundation for active citizenship and lifelong inquiry. That mission to transform lives and to prepare active citizens is at the heart of what we do. Today, as higher education faces more demands and challenges than ever before, that mission requires us to be more inclusive, more innovative, and to impact directly the world in which we live. That's why we've chosen inclusion, innovation, and impact as the theme for this meeting. But here's a quick look at our unique campus, the campus at UW-Eau Claire. For more than a century, UW-Eau Claire has defined excellence as providing all of our students with the experiences, knowledge, and skills that prepare them to be tomorrow's leaders. But we can't do it alone. Today, with the help of our students, faculty, staff, and partners, I want to share with you how our strategic partnerships are opening more doors and positively impacting our region, our state, and beyond. Before I do that, I want to introduce a few special partners that we have, because we can't do it alone, that could be joining us today. We have a fantastic legislative delegation in the Chippewa Valley, but I was so pleased to see State Representative Jesse James. If you'd stand just to receive our support and thank you for all you do at the Capitol. Mark Ullman is here, Legislative Director for Congressman Ron Kind. If you'd stand, Mark, over here, thank you. And an important partner from our business community, Scott Rogers, who's Government Relations Coordinator for the Eau Claire Chamber of Commerce. Scott, thank you for being here. Inclusion, innovation, impact. Those three words describe in a nutshell our PRIDE program. PRIDE, which stands for Physical Activity and Recreation for Individuals with Disabilities in the Eau Claire area. I've invited Dr. Markwell Johnson and student Billy Alola to join me to share what they're doing to make a difference in this community with the PRIDE program. Markwell?
Thank you, Chancellor. My name is Dr. Markwell Johnson. I am a full professor in the Department of Kinesiology. I serve as the creator and the director of the PRIDE program and the PRIDE for Adults program. The intention of the PRIDE program is to serve children with cognitive, sensory, and physical disabilities ages 5 to 16 years old, providing them with individualized and/or group instruction in the areas of skill development, fitness, sports, and recreational activities. Between 30 to 45 children from the surrounding area participate in the PRIDE program. The intention of the PRIDE for Adults program is to serve adults with disabilities ages 17 plus by providing them an individualized exercise program. The exercise programs consist of aerobic, resistance training, range of motion, and flexibility components. The benefits include improved aerobic and muscular fitness, improved psychosocial health, and a better ability to perform tasks of daily living. Between 15 to 22 adults with a variety of disabilities participate in the program each semester. Each program provides UW-EC an outlet to demonstrate its efforts towards a more inclusive community, but more importantly, provides our undergraduate students invaluable experiential learning opportunities that prepare them to be inclusive practitioners in their future professions in both healthcare and allied health careers. The programs also allow for more community access to UW-Eau Claire and its many students. For a lot of the families and adults that the program serves, this is their first and only engagement with the university of any kind, serving as a gateway to our campus for a population that is typically relegated to the fringes of local communities is one of the pillars of university outreach. The programs originated from the need to decrease the risk of sedentary behavior and other associated health conditions, such as obesity and reduced cardiovascular fitness, that are greater in populations with disabilities when compared to those without disabilities. The availability of undergraduate students with career interest in health and human well-being make university campuses an ideal environment for such programs. The specific activities of each program address unmet needs of this population as they experience life in their local communities. Opportunities and inclusive attitudes are still barriers that many people with disability face daily. Our programs attempt to decrease the void and improve the attitudes of future professionals. Overall, movement is important to one's health. For some people that choose not to engage in prescriptive exercise, games and sports, or other recreational activities, dance is a welcome medium to perform movement. Dance programs geared toward children with disabilities are not readily available. One of our rehabilitation science majors, Bailey, who you will hear from shortly, came to me with an idea about extending PRIDE offerings with a dance component. Having no experience with dance myself, I was a little bit apprehensive at first because there would have to be a dedicated person to lead such an endeavor. After 3 years of planning and a lot of persuasion, Bailey, an acknowledgement of the limited opportunities focused on dance in our community and the amazing opportunity to partner with the Pablo Center. The Pride Dance Program was created and delivered with much success. Bailey?
Hello, everyone. My name is Bailey Olala. As mentioned, I am the creator and the director of the Pride Dance Program. I'm a senior here at UW-Eau Claire studying kinesiology rehabilitation science, and I'll be graduating this spring. I grew up in White Bear Lake, Minnesota, and it was there that I had my first experience volunteering for an adapted dance program. It was through this experience that I learned that I'm someone who is quite passionate when it comes to working with individuals with disabilities, as well as the importance of community-based programming for these populations. At that point in time, I didn't have a full understanding of the impact that program had had, but I would soon learn through my experience here at UW-Eau Claire. The kinesiology faculty and the courses provided in that department have equipped me not only with the information to be successful in graduate school, but they've also provided me the support and the knowledge to continue pursuing the passions that I began to discover when I was 15 years old. In the fall of 2019, I moved to Eau Claire to begin my college career. I was eager to find a program that left me feeling as full as the one at home did. I went to K-12 schools, dance studios, and clinics, and I found myself not only disappointed, but determined to provide an adapted dance program in the area. That's when I learned of Dr. Johnson and his Pride program, and I spent the next 3 years bugging him and telling him about this program that I was so excited about. After poking the bear just enough, he allowed me his Pride label and allowed me to run with my passions and my knowledge to begin preparing for Pride Dance 2022. The spring semester rolled around and I had 12 community participants ages 6 through 16, 24 university volunteers, and 7 weeks. Oftentimes when people ask me about this program, I reflect back onto the first week of class. These volunteers and these kids walked in the room shy, unsure of themselves and their ability to perform, and fast forward to mid-April, they jumped on stage and performed in front of over 200 people on a Broadway-level stage with beaming smiles. The response from parents also reflected this improvement. They shared progress in their children's motor skills, their behaviors, and their social skills. Along with that, these parents met me with open arms. They shared with me the need for programs like this and expressed their disbelief that their son and or daughter would ever be a part of a program like Pride Dance. I also saw immense growth in myself professionally. I, as a college student, created a community-based program from the ground up. I learned how to promote such a program, communicate in various settings and situations, and share the information that I was learning in the classroom. These are all things that I will take with me in my time beyond Eau Claire as I strive to continue my education and hopefully one day educate others in a college setting. I'm excited to share that this fall we are continuing our Pride Dance program. This Monday, I was excited to see a few familiar faces as well as many new ones. This year, our practices are again being partnered with the Pablo Center. They have graciously donated our weekly practice space as well as provided RCU a 1,200-seat Broadway-level theater for our recital both seasons now. As I close, I do have a confession for you all. I created Pride Dance because this is an environment I, along with Dr. Johnson, am my most authentic self. I created this program selfishly because I love who I am when I work with these kids and I love how I feel when I leave. After starting this program, I soon realized that these volunteers, these students, as well as their parents all leave feeling a very similar way. That's because this is an environment that's inclusive, it's supportive, at times really silly and celebratory. I look forward to continuing to watch the growth in the 16 kids and the 38 volunteers that I have participating this season. I also look forward to the growth in the Pride Dance program. I'm as determined to have this program continue after I graduate as I was when I began this program. And that is because Pride Dance has proven itself to be an impactful program to the Eau Claire community. Thank you.
Good job. In closing, in higher education, we are outcomes-based and always in search of measurable components to demonstrate our value to the community. Last spring's Pride Dance recital held at the Pablo Center in the main theater had over 200 attendees for an 18-minute performance. At its conclusion, a couple of grandparents holding bouquets of flowers for their performers came up to me and said that they would have never imagined their grandchild performing in a dance recital. Now consider the value of making the unimaginable possible within the community through the efforts of engaged undergraduate students such as Bailey and the other undergraduate students who volunteered, and public-private partnerships such as Pablo. Thank you, everyone.
What an impact you're having. Thank you to both for getting this program off the ground and inspiring all of these young people to believe in themselves. Thank you so much. So Pride for Dance is just one example of literally hundreds of ways our faculty and staff are connecting with students in our region. Eau Claire is very proud to have a community engagement requirement for our students before they graduate, where they have to take the curriculum that they've taken in the classroom and into the community to make a difference and apply that. I'm so proud of this institution for having that program in place to teach that opportunity for our students and impact our community. Each year, our students are dedicating more than 100,000 hours in service to the community and making a difference. You may have noticed the unique arrangement of plates in a display case out near the lunch where we had lunch today. It was created by our new ceramicist, Kathy Maves, and her student especially for this meeting. If you look closely at the 19 beautiful plates that make up the display, you'll see that they collectively depict the Chippewa Valley and point north to our campus in Barron County. Each of these sign plates is unique, and together they demonstrate our commitment to serve the region. I'd like to introduce our artist and her students, along with the chair of our art department, Dr. Paul Kaljan. If you'd please stand so we can thank you for bringing your creativity to our meeting today. By the way, we will be dismantling the display later tonight, so check it out this afternoon if you haven't seen it. We will be presenting each member of the Board of Regents with one of these plates. We hope that it'll be a reminder of the vital role you play to help comprehensive universities play an important role in our regions each and every day by involving our students. At UW-Eau Claire, we are holding ourselves accountable for delivering the kinds of experiences that prepare students for success. We've set 4 guidepost goals for participation in high-impact experiences, retention, graduation, and closing the opportunity gap. By the way, we've put our numbers to the goals, and we publish our outcomes each year on our website. You've got a handout in your folder that shows you our results. You can also find these numbers, again, on our publicly available dashboard. We want you and Wisconsin to know that UW-Eau Claire students are active in our regions as student nurses, teachers, social workers, volunteers, and interns. 2/3 of our students complete at least one intern, and almost 40% of those students go to work for the companies they did their internship with. We're making great progress in our guidepost goals. In fact, in terms of participation in our high-impact experiences, which includes study abroad, internships, undergraduate research, and that community engagement requirement, our students of color actually exceed the majority students in 3 of the 4 practices. For undergraduate research, it's almost by 10 points. So we have made a pledge to close the opportunity gap for all our students of color by the year 2025, and we've made incredible progress. Undergraduate research really is at the heart of what we do, and we've been doing it at UW-Eau Claire since the early 1960s. That's one of the reasons why in 2016 we were named #1 in the country for undergraduate research by the Council for Undergraduate Research. It's an honor that I'm pleased to note that was given to UW-La Crosse just this past year, and I know that UW-Milwaukee had received it in recent years as well. Well, this spring we have the great honor of hosting the National Council for Undergraduate Research Conference in April, where we expect some 4,000 undergraduate researchers, along with 400 or more faculty mentors from across the country, to descend on our campus while we're in session. It'll be a wonderful opportunity for the entire system to celebrate our students' work. For the last 34 years, UW-Eau Claire has been named the UW System Center for Excellence for Faculty and Undergraduate Student Research Collaboration. It's an honor that we take great pride in, and here's why undergraduate research is such a part of our institutional DNA.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jack Plazowitz. I was a student at University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire from 1963 to 1967.
I'm Dr. Mike Carney. I was a student at UW-Eau Claire from 1979 to 1983. I did research with Dr. Plazowitz.
I'm Dr. Deidre Gerlach. I was a student here from 2003 until 2007, and I did research with Dr. Mike Carney.
My name is Erica Aikenson. I'm a senior here at UW-Eau Claire, and I'm doing research with Dr. Gerlach.
I wasn't involved in research in the department at that time. There was very little. There were a couple of faculty, I think, who were interested in research. As a student, I didn't get involved. I was working part-time jobs to pay for my tuition. I would say it's developed, tremendously since then.
When I started as a student here, I was kind of on the front end of the leading edge of the wave of undergraduate research, certainly in chemistry. It has had such an incredible impact on my career. When I was a student here, I had good grades, but lots of students have good grades. But to have a paper published in the top journal in chemistry before I graduated, because of the work that I did with Jack, set me apart in those days from other students who were applying to graduate schools. It's the only reason I'm convinced that I was accepted into and went to Harvard.
The space we're sitting in right now, this is the research space that I worked in as an undergrad. So I took over. I had to literally boot Mike out of the lab because I needed the lab space. Erica in particular is actually one of my chem business students, and her research isn't a basic knowledge research project. We're working in collaboration with industry.
So we work with a company in the industry, in the paints and coatings industry, and they make paint additives that prevent rust and corrosion. Before getting this project and starting on this research, I did not know at all what I wanted to do. So I think it's really helped direct me into a certain field.
I loved the fact that I was working with people that were smarter than me before they realized it. So they didn't know how good they were. And it was just a joy to work with them.
It's heartwarming to see the success that students have, either going to permanent employment right out of school, or they go to grad school and they excel there. It reminds us of why we're here, because we know that we're impacting their lives, we're giving them opportunities. It's not like we're the reason why they're successful, but we've given them an opportunity to shine.
4 generations of student faculty research at UW-Eau Claire. Did you know that almost 40% of UW-Eau Claire students do an undergraduate research experience with a faculty member outside of their regular curriculum before they graduate? And that's while our faculty, by and large, are still teaching full loads of class and still taking the time to make sure the students have that high impact experience. We're really proud of that tradition at UW-Eau Claire, and with the NCUR conference coming in 2023 this April, we'll have an opportunity again for the entire UW system to welcome other students from across the country to Wisconsin to share in our commitment to fostering the next generation of researchers. I hope every campus will be able to join us this year in April. NCUR 2023 will not only have an impact on our students, but it'll have a significant economic impact on our region as we fill up hotels and restaurants for, I think, a 30-mile radius around the community. Higher education has always had an economic impact and a great catalyst in our regions. Our 26 campuses bring jobs and opportunities to our state, as exemplified by the Wisconsin idea. I'm hoping that as long as we've got 4,000 of the brightest students from around the country coming to Eau Claire, we can snag a few of them to stay in Eau Claire. For the first time with this conference, we're hosting a Wisconsin Industry Career Fair during the conference to introduce them to great businesses from across the state as well as graduate schools. My goal is they'll come to Eau Claire in April, and hopefully we don't have a blizzard at that time, and we might convince them to decide to make their move with their intelligence and great education to the great state of Wisconsin, and maybe even tell some of their friends about the place when they get back home. For those of us in the more rural parts of the region of the state, our role as economic engines plays, I think, an even more vital role. Our small school districts, rural healthcare clinics, and Main Street businesses often struggle to attract and retain professionals who will become a part of the small town fabric of life. I myself grew up in a small farming community of only 1,000 people, and bringing that kind of talent in that community is such a shot in the arm. That's why when the WEDC announced the Workforce Innovation Grant opportunity, we knew it was our job to be a part of strengthening the talent pipeline for rural Wisconsin. And so we looked to our partners, as we always do, to help us innovate. And our partners made all the difference.
What I really appreciated about the UW-Eau Claire proposal is it's fundamentally based on relationships. It's the relationship between Eau Claire and the Mayo Clinic, but it's also really recognizing that going into these communities creates relationships between the individual who's there providing services, but also between the individuals themselves who are working together to provide those services. And so the UW-Eau Claire proposal is making a fabric of support throughout their efforts, and that's really critical. And that's what you see in successful Wisconsin communities. As I travel around the state, I see communities that are really working together, that are really collaborating, and the UW-Eau Claire proposal really models that.
So joining me to talk about this collaboration and support of rural communities is Dr. Carmen Manning, the Dean of our College of Education and Human Sciences.
Thank you, Chancellor. Our Workforce Innovation Grant is built on 4 pillars, focused on the immediate and medium-term workforce needs in western Wisconsin, as well as long-term innovations needed to prepare our workforce for the future. As the Chancellor and Secretary Hughes highlight, we designed the Workforce Innovation Grant in collaboration with our existing partnerships with school districts, social service agencies, and healthcare organizations. The first pillar of our grant is focused on the short-term need of providing more teachers, social workers, and nurses. We have all heard about the workforce challenges in these areas, especially for our rural communities. To address teacher shortages, we are placing as many student teachers as possible in rural districts in the Chippewa Valley. On the screen, you can see some of these student teachers in their first day of school pictures. The grant provides tuition support for these student teachers to help reduce their debt so they are more able to choose a job in a rural area. We are also building 2 networks to support student teachers, social workers, and speech-language pathologists. In one network, students will live together in their rural community during their field experiences to provide social and professional support. The second network is a new teacher network to support early career teachers to remain and thrive in their rural districts. The grant also supports innovation in our nursing program with a commitment to graduate an additional 48 nurses per year. We are partnering with local healthcare providers, including Mayo, to increase the supply of nurses throughout the state. We are revising our curriculum, increasing our use of simulation, and developing new innovative clinical placements to increase the number of highly qualified nurses we graduate. The second pillar of the grant focuses on developing new programs to meet medium-term regional needs, as well as provide high-paying jobs to our citizens. You can see on the screen the 6 programs we're developing and revising. We look forward to bringing several of these programs to you, the Board of Regents, for authorization in the coming year. and we hope to implement these programs in the fall of 2024. Now I will turn it over to my colleague, Dr. Mike Carney, to talk about the last two pillars of the grant.
Thank you, Carmen. Mayo Clinic is a key partner in our Workforce Innovation Grant. You've already heard how Mayo is working with UW-Eau Claire to reimagine its nursing curriculum to help us graduate 48 more nurses each year. The grant is also allowing Mayo to create a new position designed to help reduce the disparity in healthcare outcomes for patients in rural settings. We are working together to train preventative health coordinators who will serve as key members of the Mayo Care Management Team and will be embedded in rural communities. The coordinators will serve as a bidirectional connection between the patient and the provider to help with communication flow, ensure that patients are following their care management plan, scheduling follow-up appointments, and the like. As part of their onboarding process, the health coordinators will complete UW-Eau Claire classes in subjects such as the language of healthcare and intercultural communications, public health, and ethics. For patients lacking reliable access to technology, we're also establishing technology hubs in 5 rural community libraries where patients can receive in-person assistance from the coordinators in a location closer to their home. The fourth pillar of the grant centers on innovation. We're partnering with the Mayo Clinic Office of Entrepreneurship to develop design thinking and innovation curriculum that will be available to our students, our community members, and our small business owners. We believe these principles will provide our region with the tools to better pivot and adjust to whatever the next disruption might be on the horizon. Our Small Business Development Center is also a key piece of this final pillar. We know that the pandemic negatively impacted our regional businesses, especially our rural Main Street business owners. The grant will allow our SBDC to expand its services, expand its services to these businesses, many of whom are reimagining themselves as they recover from the pandemic. We have a short video that describes how the SBDC has helped one of our local businesses.
200 cupcakes with a bride and groom cinnamon roll cake for another.
Our mission is to go out in the community and help people start and grow their businesses.
So yeah, my freezer door is full.
So clients can come to us whenever they feel they want our services. So we are through the SBA and we offer no-cost consulting. People can come to us as often as they want. Carrie and Chris, they came to us and they just wanted some assistance, kind of getting their branding started, some assistance with the county because we are in their bakery, which is located on their property. So they needed to get everything up to code so that they were able to run this amazing business here.
They're always there. They're there to kind of help guide and answer questions when we have them as a small business because there's some things we just don't get, but they're there to help. So it's been fun. It has been something we'll keep utilizing as much as we possibly can.
We got onto the WEDC innovation grant that UW-Eau Claire wrote. The grant was critical for us. We needed more funding to get this and turn this into a much more robust program.
It's been so beneficial and rewarding for me to be able to get out in the community, meet clients like we are here today, and just be making a lasting impact through my accounting work.
It's a great win-win for everyone. The client wins because they get the help they need. Our students win because they get the training and experience and the outreach and the exposure to the community and the different things that come with that. And the SBDC wins because we get capacity and the ability to leverage these students to serve more clients.
This grant is allowing us to put the Wisconsin idea into practice by opening new doors to the community while also providing wonderful opportunities for our faculty, staff, and students.
Thank you, Dean Manning and Dr. Carney, for your efforts. I also want to recognize our 20 workforce innovation partners who have been walking hand in hand with us for many, many years. This grant was only possible because we already had the relationships in place with creative people ready to work together with us on new opportunities for our region. Speaking of innovators, for the last 5 years, I've had the privilege of working with some of the most creative and dynamic leaders. Dr. Mark Carney, who you just met, Dr. Rick Helmers, Dr. Tim Nelson, who's of course a proud Blue Gold, as well as Dr. Liz Golgowski, one of our faculty members. 5 years ago, this past June, UW-Eau Claire and Mayo Clinic Health System signed a joint research agreement, only the second such agreement in the world at the time. And it came out of a series of conversations over coffee that Dr. Rick Helmers and I had on how we could collaborate better. The agreement lays out our intention to collaborate on joint research between our students, faculty, and Mayo Clinic physicians and clinicians. Our shared goal was to improve patient care and our students' education by tapping into the energy and innovation that young minds and dedicated professionals can bring. To say that in the last 5 years we've exceeded all expectations would be an understatement. Dr. Helmers, what impact are you seeing from this unique collaboration?
Thank you. Thanks very much. It's fun to talk to all of you. We're still masked on our campus, so I always do what I ask everybody else to do. But thank you very much. Just a brief background. I grew up on a farm in rural Iowa, and I am a pulmonary doctor by background. And I did essentially all of my training at the University of Iowa and was on staff there for a few years. And then I joined the Mayo Clinic initially in Arizona, had a variety of roles there. And then for 5 years, I was Vice Dean of Practice for the Mayo Clinic Enterprise and split my time between Arizona and Rochester. And then I was lucky enough 5 years ago to be asked to be the Regional Vice President of the Northwest Wisconsin region of the Mayo Clinic Health System. The Mayo Clinic logo are the three shields, if you've ever seen the Mayo Clinic logo. One big shield with two smaller shields. And the largest shield is clinical practice, because that's obviously our biggest emphasis, is to provide the best care that we can for our patients. And the smaller shields are research and education. And the reason that that's important is at Mayo Clinic we have research and education to enhance our clinical care. We do research and education to enhance our clinical care. And so that when Dr. Noseworthy, who was the overall CEO of Mayo at that time, asked me to lead the practice in Northwest Wisconsin, he challenged me to develop a three-shield practice in the Northwest Wisconsin region of the Mayo Clinic Health System. Chancellor Schmidt has been on our board for some time. He was on the search committee that picked me. And so we talked from the beginning about working together in a partnership to accomplish the three-shield mission. The Mayo brothers realized a long time ago that you're the best doctor when you're surrounded by young learners. And you're the best doctor when you're involved in the creation of new knowledge. So that working together with UW-Eau Claire allows us to take better care of our patients. To say that again, our partnership with UW-Eau Claire allows us to provide the best care for our patients that we can. We've been very fortunate in that we've been able to recruit a lot of great doctors to join our practice. I interview every doctor that is asked to join our practice, and their either first or second question is, tell me about the partnership with UW-Eau Claire. That is one of the most important things in the minds of the doctors that we recruit, because they feel that that is crucial for the best part of their career, and that they also realize that they can provide the best care for their patients when they're challenged by young learners and in the environment that a university gives. So that a crucial part of our success here has been our partnership with UW-Eau Claire. Working with UW-Eau Claire, we provide the best care we can for our patients, and can it get any better than that?
Thank you, Rick. You know, I'd say as we talk about the notion of partnerships at this meeting, you're picking up on the theme. This is an interdependent strategic partnership. My definition is when you ask the partner who's getting the better deal. I can tell you from UW-Eau Claire's perspective, we're getting the better deal. And every time I've asked Rick, he says Mayo Clinic's getting the better deal.
Absolutely.
Just like a good marriage, it's always good to think you're the lucky one in a partnership. So certainly research was the original focus of 5 years ago. Mike and Tim, would you talk a little bit about what our collaboration looks like and what makes it actually distinctive, different than other places?
Yes. So we definitely started with a focus on research, and the collaboration has grown in ways that we never imagined it would when we started out. As an example, our research projects have included nearly 30 UW-Eau Claire faculty and staff, spanning 12 academic departments and across all 4 colleges at UW-Eau Claire. The projects involve faculty from what I would call traditional sort of healthcare-related disciplines like chemistry, biology, biochemistry, psychology, kinesiology, and nursing. But we also have participants from math, computer science, geography, information systems, and languages. To help jumpstart our projects, these collaborations can access seed funding through a formal proposal process. Proposal review and funding decisions are made by a Research Innovation Council. It's comprised of equal membership from Mayo Clinic and UW-Eau Claire. But in the end, these projects hinge on bringing clinicians and faculty together. To help make connections, part of our jobs, my job and Tim's job, is to serve as matchmaker. We've hosted in-person and virtual meet and greets where clinicians and faculty make quick pitches followed by time for people to interact. Or Tim and I will share texts or emails about research ideas that originate from either side, and then we will reach out to folks in our respective organizations that might have similar research interests. We're often successful in making that initial match, and then we just sort of step back and let the collaborations grow organically from there. In addition to research projects, the collaboration has progressed to the point that we're now developing new curriculum through the partnership. For example, faculty in biomedical engineering partnered with Mayo Clinic to develop a new course called 3D Printing in Medicine that is now a regular offering and is open to all students on our campus. From the university's perspective, perhaps the most important benefit of the collaboration is the opportunity for our students now to work on a project with a Mayo clinician and a UW-Eau Claire faculty member, and where they can see the positive impact that their research is having on the health and well-being of patients. And as I turn it over to Tim to share the Mayo perspective, I just want to say what a privilege and what a pleasure it has been to work with Tim and Rick as we develop our partnership.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Tim Nelson. I'm a physician scientist trained here as alumni at the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire in the organic lab of Dr. O, and went on to the Medical College of Wisconsin to do my MD, PhD training there, and then migrated west to Mayo Clinic Rochester to do my training there. And now I've come back home to be in this wonderful position to be working with my colleagues, mentors, and bosses, and friends, and family, and community to be able to bring the multidisciplinary team approach of research and innovation to Eau Claire and our surrounding communities. As a physician, we are intimately aware of the problems of healthcare. As I'm sure all of you, whether you're a consumer or part of healthcare from whatever angle, healthcare is broken. We have a lot of work to do. And it takes a community of multidisciplinary teamwork to solve these problems, to decrease costs, to improve outcomes for our patient. This might be breakthrough technology with new patents, but it also may mean new ways of delivering care and doing some of the simple things that takes the data to convince each other to do the right thing. So these data comes from the people, the projects, and this partnership. And as physicians, we don't have the time to collaborate on our own teams, build our own teams to do the research, but to have the partner across the river with the faculty and most importantly the students allows us to do things that we dreamt about doing but just don't have enough time in the calendar to see our patients and do it all. But when you give that spark of students and a multidisciplinary team approach, the impossible can be done. Not only can you get better results, but you can actually infuse an enthusiasm and an excitement back into our faculty that went into medicine to make things better. And that enthusiasm and that spark and renewal, if you will, leads to better retention and recruitment, as Dr. Helmer said, but it also keeps our faculty on staff longer because we've got more energy and more people working on the projects that matter deeply to us. The final thing I'll say, this is all about community. We can't do this without community members, community partners, and we are so blessed and grateful for the Eau Claire community at large to be supporting us in doing what we do. Together, we can really transform healthcare, and we're going to do our small part one step at a time because of this partnership. So thank you very much for your leadership.
Thank you, Tim. So Liz, who's a member of our faculty and has worked on a number of research projects with Mayo, and just to remind you all, I know the Regents remember that Liz is the most recent recipient of the UW System Regents Scholar Award. Liz, you've been working on some interesting projects, and you know, when Mayo Clinic says they got a problem that needs to be solved, who are you going to call? You're going to call some freshmen, right? Tell the story.
Yes, today I'm happy to talk about a project that actually started because of this collaboration between UW-Eau Claire and Mayo Clinic. Our collaborator did his training at Mayo in Rochester and then came here to be an interventional radiologist, and he has these great ideas but didn't have time to implement them. So he heard about this collaboration. He reached out to us in material science. He's like, you know, are you interested in this? And I'm like, well, this is what we do. We do research, and we're happy to try it and see how it goes. And so far, it has been fantastic. So our project is looking at making injectable biocompatible foams that he uses during tumor ablation. So that's the treatment of mostly liver and kidney cancer. And there are techniques to deal with this, but ultimately our foam improves on the current technology such that it protects the healthy tissue that might be in contact with the tumor and then dissipates when the procedure is done. And so this improves patient outcomes, there's less pain, faster recovery times. And so my students who have been able to observe the procedure by shadowing our collaborator have said the patient comes in with cancer and leaves with a Band-Aid. So it's minimally invasive and very exciting. And so right now we are working on the joint patent between UW-Eau Claire and Mayo Clinic Health System. And I just want to say this has been a wonderful professional opportunity for myself because as a material scientist, you know, I've done a lot of fundamental research into materials, but being able to take that and apply that and see how it impacts patients and see how it can make the world a better place is really important to me. And then working with the fabulous students that we've been able to recruit because of this. So these students, I actually start working with them. We start emailing before they even start at UW-Eau Claire. We start emailing over the summer, and then usually by day 3 of the semester, we meet and get started in the lab. And so they've been able to do everything from work on the patent, peer-reviewed publications, presenting to national audiences. I had students who spoke to congressional staffers this past spring. And then just the poise and confidence they have, everything from talking to the UW system president to the Mayo Clinic Health System president, sometimes even in the same week. They just really impress me. And by the way, they're doing this while they're teenagers, all right? They're starting in their first year of college here at UWC. And so it's just been a privilege to be able to work with these students, see how they're growing while they're here, and then imagining what wonderful things they're going to do as they go forward.
So Liz's students, freshmen, they solved this problem in less than 6 months. They are going to be on a joint patent with the Mayo Clinic. They've already been published multiple times in peer-reviewed medical journals, and they're in their first year.
Teenagers.
They're teenagers. So Tim, this is this Biomedical Innovators Program. Mayo Clinic has a very audacious goal for UW-Eau Claire, and I think this scholarship program is a big piece of making that a reality. Would you tell us a little bit about that?
We recognize that all of this future of healthcare is dependent on the students that we're educating here in our community and the power of this partnership of what we can do. We launched a program called the Biomedical Innovators Program that Liz is talking about with her students that brings people out of high school into the first year and are part of this integrated program that allows students to be part of Mayo Clinic and the university at the same time. Many of you may know of a program known as the MD-PhD program, which I took part of at the Medical College of Wisconsin, and many medical schools have this, training physicians and scientists at the graduate level. Mayo Clinic has pioneered having a clinician investigator pathway where you continue to cultivate that spirit of innovation and scientific discovery within our physician colleagues. What we are doing, to my knowledge, the first time anywhere, is bringing that level of thinking to the undergraduate level and bringing students into an integrated medical scientific curriculum where they interact with physicians on one day and scientists in the labs at the university on another day. This integrated environment at the undergrad level, we believe, will inspire the best of the best from not only the state of Wisconsin but beyond to want to be part of this ecosystem, and that will allow us to train and recruit the best physicians and allied health and everything that goes with that to be on our staff in Mayo Clinic, across the enterprise of Mayo Clinic, not just even Eau Claire. The other thing I'll say is these biomedical innovators are not going to be just physicians. They're not going to be just physicians. We might have the best physicians coming out of that training program, but they're also going to be data scientists, engineers, allied health working staff that does 3D printing like we've pioneered here. This is the workforce of tomorrow. We have to have innovators trained from the very beginning of their education to fix the biggest problems in healthcare, and that's what's starting here in Eau Claire because of this partnership. Thank you.
Rick, would you mind commenting?
So my grandfather always told me it's better to be lucky than smart. And so I got incredibly lucky to have a partner, Jim Schmidt. And then soon after we developed the relationship, Tim Nelson, who's being quite modest, he's really one of the top scientists at Mayo Clinic, asked me if he could join our team. And Tim then for the last 5 years has split his time 50% between us and Rochester. So we're incredibly lucky. And as Chancellor Schmidt said, our goal is to have UW-Eau Claire be the top pre-medical school in the country. Say that again. Our goal is to have UW-Eau Claire be the top pre-medical school in the country. And part of it is selfish on my part, because we want the best pre-medical students in the country to come here, spend 4 years here, eventually go off to one of the many great medical schools and come back and join our staff. So that in addition to UW-Eau Claire allowing us to recruit the best staff, we're developing the best workforce in the country by this partnership, without a doubt. And that's what benefits the lives of all people in western Wisconsin, is that as we become the pipeline for the best caregivers in the future. The other exciting thing for me, I told you I grew up on a farm, is that we can really become the hub of rural healthcare research and development, without a doubt. Rural healthcare is obviously one of the biggest problems in Midwest states and many states in the country. We can solve those issues with this partnership, and it's an intense personal interest of all of us. So that, again, I just want to say this partnership has allowed our physicians to give the best care that we can, and that's really what our ultimate goal is. So thank you.
All right. Thank you all. In only 5 years, thanks to this collaboration, we are impacting the learning experience of our students, expanding opportunities for our faculty, helping us attract the best faculty to Eau Claire, and creating a stronger pipeline of talent for our region and improving patient care. No big deal, right? So our collaboration has inspired new initiatives that Mayo Clinic Health System or UW-Eau Claire could not have accomplished by yourselves. We are bigger, better, stronger together. So to conclude this presentation, I'd like to invite some of the faculty and students who've been involved in the collaboration with Mayo to join me now. So I think they're going to come sneaking out from the sides and up on the floor. In particular, I'd like to recognize the biomedical innovator scholars who are making such a difference in their research and leadership. We've asked them to share with the Regents 2 small reminders of our presentation today. The first, a card with their personal reflections on the impact that UW-Eau Claire has had on their lives and their dreams for the future. We hope that this gives you a tangible understanding of the personal impact. I shouldn't try to compete with this, should I? Not a chance. We'll let them do that. We'll let them do that. Yeah. Let's not bring out the puppy dogs. That's going to really just... So let me tell you what else they're receiving. In addition to the personal note talking about the students' aspirations and dreams for the future, the second gift is especially tangible. Maybe a couple of the regents would hold it up because I didn't bring a model up here for me. It is a 3D model built as a part of our 3D printing program on campus. It's a model of an actual patient's heart. It represents, oh, look at this. This has been reduced a little bit. Actual patient's heart. And it represents the innovation that our students helping to advance in patient care. Thanks to modeling like this, physicians, surgeons can make better care decisions. We bring this together with the whole rib cage and the other internal organs so they can see if they're going to do non-invasive surgery, what's going to be in the way. And it provides an exact plan that can not only make the difference between a non-invasive surgery and one where you have to crack the whole chest. It helps patients better understand what's involved in the heart surgery. They can show it. They can see their actual chest cavity. And it'll improve patient outcomes because you're going in with a plan. One that not only improves patient outcomes, but significantly drives down patient costs. Dr. Helmer said the feedback from male doctors is we're going to want one of these for everything. Bringing down costs, improving outcomes, better care. That's a win, win, win. And it's exactly the kind of thing that happens with the kind of research happening at UW-Eau Claire. I started my presentation this afternoon talking about public good that is at the heart of our mission. That was a pun intended, in case you weren't following. I hope the model you're taking with you will be a reminder of the mission to make a difference in our region, state, and the world by focusing on being inclusive from the beginning and collaborating with partners to make innovation possible. We are having an impact on our students, our community, Wisconsin, and in fact, the world. Inclusion, innovation, impact. UW-Eau Claire is driven to provide Wisconsin with the kind of leaders, the talent, the ideas that we need to keep moving forward. Thank you all for your great attention and for all you've all done to bring this idea to life. Thank you all. Madam Chair, I turn it back to you. I don't know if there's time or interest in questions, but we again thank you for your interest.
Thank you, Chancellor Schmidt, and I'd like to echo the thanks to our partners at Mayo Clinic and other community folks who give our students so many incredible real-world experiences. You students are very lucky to be in a place that has such a commitment to that. We might have a minute or two for any questions or comments by my fellow regents. Anybody? Well, thanks again, and congratulations on all you're doing in the community. We're going to take a very quick 10-minute break. Please be back in your seats in 10 minutes. All right. President Rothman, are you ready?
I'm ready to go, President Walsh.
All right. In the spirit of looking forward, President Rothman will now give us an update on the development of a new UW system strategic plan. It's been in the works ever since he got here and draws on input of chancellors, shared governance, and system leadership. President Rothman.
Thank you very much. I'm pleased today to share with you the draft of the UW system strategic plan for consideration by the board. A couple of preliminary thoughts as you look at the plan and you review the plan and we go through the presentation. First of all, it is important to note that it still remains a draft, and this is very much a work in process, and we look forward to your feedback. Secondly, as you have seen, walk through today, slide 12 accomplish in the plan. Chancellors with me, let me walk through that.
President Rothman, I wonder if you wouldn't move the mic a little closer to your mouth. The old radio reporter will give you a little coaching there.
All right,
no
there we
charge.
go. I appreciate that. Thank you. I was trying to get away with no one hearing me, but apparently that's not going to work. And while we have identified some strategies and some preliminary metrics, which we will share with you today, it is still too early to provide precise specificity where we're going to land on some of the goals, in part because we want to get guidance from. Today we're going to share with you the general directions of the plan itself and some of the goals, and to elicit your feedback. We invite your feedback and questions at any time during the presentation. Please do not wait until we were done. I think it's an ongoing discussion relative to the plan. Because this is important to get your feedback now. Our goal is to bring a final plan for approval by this board later this year. So that's what our goal is by December. As you know, and I don't need to repeat this, but as you know, the UW system is one of the greatest resources in this state. I would argue it is one of the greatest resources in the country. The plan that you're going to see is a system plan in the I'm not sure having that impact. Fortunately, if this one doesn't work, and I don't know if I want to accept that, but that's neither here nor there, so let's try this. That this is a system plan in that all 13 universities across the UW system, along with system, participate in achieving the goals that we have set for ourselves. Among our bold, ambitious goals, and these are still a work in process, and I encourage you to think of them in that light, we are proposing the following: to graduate nearly 41,000 students annually across our institutions by the end of the 5-year term of the plan. Close the opportunity gap between historically underserved students, including those from lower socioeconomic populations, and our other students in our system. Recruit, develop, and retain a diverse, high-quality faculty and staff. To increase the national rankings of Wisconsin in degree attainment. Enhance the positioning of our 2 R1 institutions, namely UW-Madison and UW-Milwaukee. By increasing Madison's position in the research rankings, and Jennifer Mnuchin will talk about that in a little bit, as well as increasing the research dollars flowing into UW-Milwaukee so that it maintains its R1 status. Another goal is to continue and to serve as national leaders in teaching critical thinking and principles of civil discourse, as well as preservation of academic freedom. And finally, to meet the pressing workforce needs of the state, serving as the educational provider of choice for employers. In this presentation, I will summarize the plan to deliver on these promises over the next 5 years and lay the groundwork for continued success beyond the plan's horizons. The plan has been months in the making as we look at the planning process. Based on numerous conversations with chancellors, governance representatives across the 13 universities in the system, leadership, as well as conversations with legislators and members of the business community. Along the way, we have clarified some basic principles that we think will ground our planning process. The plan is intended to provide an answer to the question, how best can the UW system meet the challenges of the state of Wisconsin? In order to meet those challenges, we will need to be creative and flexible. Identifying new solutions to the challenges we currently face will require that we embrace innovation in all that we do. We know that higher education is changing. We have to be leaders in tracking that change and being more innovative. Additionally, we make a fundamental commitment to our core values, including diversity, equity, and inclusion. Core commitments run through all of the goals in our plan and metrics and will ensure that we are serving the many diverse communities across Wisconsin equally well. The system-wide plan will focus on those issues that benefit from a collaborative and coordinated approach among our 13 universities that will drive and encourage cross-institutional collaboration where the universities are working with each other, that are driven by the need to prioritize allocation of scarce resources across the UW system universities, or that necessarily involve the UW system administration to execute. Each university's strategy and plan align with the overall plan, sense that nothing in a specific university's plan should be inconsistent with strategy. Universities retain, as they should, the usual autonomy to pursue the goals as their goals as they see fit, and you will see that through the course of. Well, I formally began my role as president of the UW system on June 1st. We have actually been working on this plan since April. Across those 6 months, we have held multiple planning sessions across several key stakeholder groups. Hash marks on the timeline you see represents a meeting with one or more of these important partners. The plan has been informed by UW system administration leadership, chancellors of our 13 universities, representatives from across. Okay, I'm going on to mic 3. This is good. All right, we'll do it this way. All right, there we go. How's that?
We have better mics included in the plan, Jay.
Yeah, that's right. That's pillar number one, Karen, is that we have more mics that can actually pick up my voice. That we have, representatives from across our 13 universities from all 4 governance groups, including students, university staff, academic staff, and faculty. It's also been informed by conversations with legislators as well as members of the business community. The plan has evolved fairly substantially from where we started because of the input of those dedicated members of our university community and others. And I have personally learned a great deal about the system, its universities, and the people who work and study here through these conversations. We are, of course, not finished with the planning process yet, but I am pleased to share with you today the progress we have made so far. I'm referring to this as our strategic framework in recognition that we do not yet have a full plan, which would include strategies, key success measures, and tactics or action items attached to each of those goals. That is something we intend to have before you in December. Also, our framework, and this is foundational in my judgment, includes some other elements. One is our purpose, the reason that we exist as an organization. A definition of the core values that will govern the relationship between UW system administration and its universities. Our vision for the next 5 years, and some guidance on the appropriate roles of the universities and the UW system administration respectively. How do we interact between system administration and the universities? But let's start with our purpose, because this is critical. This is the reason why we are here. The missions of the UW system, the doctoral cluster, and the regional comprehensive universities that comprise the system are articulated in Regent Policy 1-1, as well as set forth in Chapter 36 of the Wisconsin Statutes, which creates the UW system. In reviewing those mission statements as part of our planning process, we thought to distill those varying statements into one unifying statement of purpose. In our view, this captures the essence of why we exist as a system and what we are here to do, namely to be leaders and fulfill the Wisconsin idea by delivering transformative educational outcomes, as well as creating and advancing knowledge that enhances the quality of life for all in Wisconsin and beyond. As a university system, we have also identified 3 fundamental headings for core values that will guide us, that will guide the relationship between system administration and the universities. 1, that we are purpose-driven. 2, that we are people-focused. And 3, that we are stewards of our resources, including those we receive from the state of Wisconsin. I'd like to spend a few minutes, though, digging deeper down and elaborating on these values and what they entail, because I believe this is really critical. How we live or do not live our core values defines our culture. And culture is fundamental. There's a management guru by the name of Peter Drucker who once said, "Culture eats strategy for breakfast." And he's right. He's right. Without a strong culture, we will be unable to achieve our great potential, and that would be a shame. It also emphasizes the importance of our culture. And to emphasize the importance of our culture, let me give you just a little bit more detail of what we mean under each of those three major headings. First, when we talk about what does it mean to be purpose-driven? One, we are student-centered. One of the primary reasons for our existence is to serve students and serve them well. Two is the pursuit of truth. That drives the core research mission and serves as the foundation for teaching and learning that are the bedrock of any university. Three, the advancement of knowledge. The search for a deeper understanding of our world and our place in it are central to our work and to our core values. And four, service to the state of Wisconsin and to the public good in general. Those are the core values that fall under purpose-driven. Let me talk about what it means to be people-focused within our core values. One is collaboration and teamwork. We know that our best work is done when we're working together in a collaborative and supportive environment. It takes a team. Diversity. Diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging are key to our long-term success. And finally, mutual respect and trust. An environment of civility, trust, collegiality, open and honest communication are absolutely essential for us to move forward. We have to build that sense of community and caring among faculty, staff, students, and community partners. And trust is not given, trust is earned. Trust is earned every single day. And finally, under the heading of stewardship, we have to be focused on the best interests of those who work and learn at the universities that comprise the system and the state of Wisconsin. As stewards, we are accountable to each other, to the system, and most importantly, to the Wisconsin idea. So how do we define that stewardship? What are the core values that define it? One is accountability. We are committed to live our core values and deliver excellence every single day. Two is integrity. We adhere to high standards of ethics and professionalism and safeguard the reputation of the system and the universities that comprise it. Three, innovation. We understand the importance of adapting to the changing conditions in which we work, being open to new ideas, and continuously seeking solutions to the challenges we face. And then finally, sustainability. We must take the long-term view, ensuring that the system is structured and supported to serve the people of Wisconsin for generations to come. In short, our goal ought to be to leave the system better than we found it. And if we live that core value, I think a lot of the rest of this follows along. So let's start digging into the underlying rationale that is driving the plan. I mentioned earlier that the draft plan has 12 goals organized around three major themes. These three themes capture, at least in my judgment, three critical ways in which we as a university system serve the state of Wisconsin and the people who live here. These are three areas in which we are well positioned to assist the state. First, the UW system advances the economic vitality of the state of Wisconsin. Wisconsin is in a war for talent. Whether it wins that war or not will define our economic prosperity for generations. It's just that simple. The university system, the UW system, is an essential component in addressing the competition for the highly trained workforce of the future.
Wisconsin needs more four-year graduates. It needs more graduates of our graduate schools in order to be and achieve the economic prosperity that is within our grasp. But if we don't do that, we're not going to get there. And you hear it all the time. Nurses, other healthcare professionals, teachers, engineers, data scientists, and that list goes on and on and on. If we don't produce the graduates to fill the jobs of Wisconsin employers, those jobs will go elsewhere. They will go elsewhere, and Wisconsin will be less prosperous as a result. So as you think about this, I encourage you not to think about this as a question of enrollment when you look at the system. Yes, enrollment is important, but we have to be looking at how are we producing the number of graduates that the state needs. And this just isn't a system issue. This is a statewide issue. Are we producing the number of graduates that the state needs in order to advance its economic interests? Right now, we are not. We have got to change that. Yes, that does boil down to enrollment because you have to get students in the system, but the ultimate goal is to have enough graduates fulfilling those jobs in the state to have the state be successful. As I mentioned earlier, the plan sets a goal of graduating nearly 41,000 students per year at the end of the 5-year period of the plan. By increasing college attainment in Wisconsin, we also move Wisconsin ahead in the national rankings of educational attainment by state. Let me just share this with you, this data point. Wisconsin is in the top 10 states for high school graduation. In fact, we rank 10th. Nearly 93% of Wisconsin high school students end up graduating. That's a great number. At the same time, while we rank 10th in high school graduations, we're 27th nationally in people that are holding a bachelor's degree. 31% of our 25 and older population currently holds a bachelor's degree. Somewhere between graduating from high school and hitting 25, we are not having enough students go through the university experience and graduate. We also know, as we look at economic viability of the state, the impact that research and the advancement of knowledge have on the economic vitality of the state. We are living in a knowledge economy. No one can doubt that. And whether it's in the great industries of Wisconsin, of agriculture and manufacturing or healthcare, they are technology-driven, they are knowledge-based. The creation of new knowledge, the creation of new ways to do things drives our economy. That is essential going forward. So that's number one in the way that this system, in my judgment, has to support the state. The second is the UW system enhances socioeconomic mobility. We know from the Bureau of Labor Statistics that income is highly correlated with degree attainment. If we are to close the socioeconomic divide, higher education must be part of that solution. We have a wealth gap in this state that is getting worse. Education can be part of the equalizing factor to change that. We need to serve all of the communities in Wisconsin. In order to do this, we need to ensure that no student or family is limited from seeking higher education solely due to the lack of income. You may remember at the last Regents meeting we talked about our affordability study and how the university system is very well positioned. We are a great value to our students, and yet we are not affordable to everyone. You also saw in that affordability study statistics that showed two snapshots, one of our student body today and one of it 10 years ago. Today, the disproportionate growth in students coming from higher income families. There has been a disproportionate growth in that group, meaning that those of lower socioeconomic means are constituting less of our student body. That is education not being an equalizer. That is education continuing the economic divide. We have to change that if we're going to be successful in serving the state. It is the underlying premise for the Wisconsin tuition promise to try to help close that gap. But it's going to take more than that. It's going to take more than a tuition promise. We need to ensure that those who do enroll in our universities stay and that they graduate. In order to retain and graduate students, we need to support them throughout their higher education careers with great academic advising, career counselors, mental health support providers, success coaches, to help them on their journey. That is critical if we're going to hit our expectation, our target for graduates. And third, we serve the public good in a variety of ways. I keep coming up with this great observation that we live in a polarized society, right? What a shock. Universities have to be the marketplace of ideas, the incubators that lead to new discoveries, new knowledge, and new technologies. If we're not that marketplace of ideas, we're not going to be successful. In order to ensure that we continue to play that role, we must preserve the conditions in which discovery thrives. Ideas need to be analyzed and discussed in a productive and civil manner. Freedom of expression, academic freedom are core underlying values of any higher education system, and we must preserve those values if we want to remain on the cutting edge of discovery. We must also ensure that people do not censor themselves, that they fail to raise their perspectives or ask questions in good faith out of fear that they will be labeled or otherwise called out simply because of their beliefs. Universities have to be marketplaces of ideas where vibrant, passionate discussion occurs, but does so in a civil fashion. Our universities across the board contribute to the general pursuit of truth and the advancement of human knowledge, and that's only going to occur in an environment that encourages and sustains that marketplace of ideas. I'm pleased to have three of our chancellors here today to join me in presenting the plan, and we will now get into some of the specifics of the plan, because they and their colleagues will be tasked to carrying out many of the strategies outlined in the plan. The chancellors today will outline the strategic plan framework, the three themes, and some of the underlying goals, as well as what they are already doing at each of their universities relative to those themes and strategic goals. That's not to suggest that we're at the finish line. It is simply to give you some color of what is possible and what we're looking to address. So we're going to start with Chancellor Mike Alexander from UW Green Bay, and Mike's going to talk about the first strategic area, and that is advancing economic prosperity. Mike?
President Rothman, we have identified four main goals that fall within the theme of advancing economic prosperity. The first is to foster a culture of innovation. The second, to support the employer community by meeting pressing workforce and other needs. The third, to ensure that the universities comprising the system are financially stable and operationally efficient. And finally, to promote differentiation among the universities. A bit later in the presentation, thankfully, President Rothman will speak to the role of the UW System Administration in ensuring financial sustainability. For now, I would like to focus on the role of universities in fueling economic prosperity. Obviously, the UW system is key in fueling the economic prosperity of Wisconsin. Not only do we produce highly skilled bachelor's, master's, and doctorally trained employees for the jobs of today, more importantly, we're producing graduates that are prepared to meet the jobs that we don't even know exist yet tomorrow. We are teaching people how to be able to have a career and not just to have a job. And this is something that really differentiates what a university can do. We're preparing our graduates for careers that don't even exist, teaching them how to be critical thinkers, to have creativity, to be great communicators, And we know that these skills translate to all fields. When we talk to the employers in Green Bay, they're not necessarily asking us what skills our graduates have. They want to know that our graduates can communicate effectively, that they could think critically, and that they are creative. We also know that people want to live near universities. If you look at cities, certainly across the Midwest, that don't have universities near them, it is much more difficult to create a vibrant living community. We need vibrant universities in the state of Wisconsin to drive the economy and to drive the regions where they're located. It's why it's brilliant that we have regional comprehensive universities across our state. We also know we have 13 universities that are already differentiated to some degree. We have developed pockets of excellence, many of which you've heard even in the presentation from Eau Claire today. But we must do this better. We have to improve how we articulate and market the uniqueness of each of our institutions to prospective students in Wisconsin and beyond. We know that each campus has a different feel, a different demographic, different specialties, a different mission, and different goals. We need to provide flexibility for that individuality. It's key to all of our universities succeeding. It strengthens the UW system, the state, and creates a diversified economy for the future. I'd like to focus a little bit, or I've been asked to focus a little bit on what we're doing at UW Green Bay in the innovation space. To try to build a culture of innovation, as President Rothman was talking, building that culture is the first step, I think, to having innovative campuses. And all campuses are doing this in their own way. The first thing that we are doing at UW Green Bay is to start challenging why we do every single thing we do, and to no longer accept the answer that we've just done it that way in the past. We must ask ourselves why we're doing it and whether or not it applies to what we're trying to do within the strategic framework that President Rothman has laid out. Right? And to make sure that we're thinking about this in a way that can truly be innovative. Secondly, we know that most innovation fails. And we have to start to embrace that as a system. It takes multiple failures to have a true innovative success. And we need to invite, particularly at the beginning, low-level failures all across the system. I try to model everything that we do at the university myself, and I can tell you I succeed in this area daily at a very high level. But it's important, right? It's key to how we think as a system. And we have to think about the idea that it is okay, that's hard for us as academics, right? That it's okay to fail. Over time, it creates success and it creates innovation. Third has been mentioned many times and is happening all across the system, to be able to think about how we could partner with innovative places. In our case, we were doing this primarily with Titletown Tech in Green Bay, as many of you saw about a month ago. But we know what we're doing there, we're modeling much after what UW-Milwaukee did with the Connected Systems Institute, right? This is happening across the system. We heard it today, again, from Chancellor Schmidt at UW-Eau Claire, right? How to find places that are innovative and attach the universities to them, right? It helps inspire us and it helps drive us towards trying to be more innovative. Next, to work on bringing innovation to our campuses. Right? We heard about what's happening at UW Superior today, at UW-Madison, and we know in Milwaukee with innovation parks. We are working at UW Green Bay on creating Phoenix Innovation Park. And we're very excited about this. We're working with area businesses and leaders across the Green Bay area about how we can bring innovation onto our campus and have it collaborate with our faculty, staff, and students. We also need to think differently and innovatively about the things that we do internally. Right? And at UW Green Bay, as we've mentioned, we're doing a lot of this through trying to think about how we can blend non-credit and credit work together. Right? To think about how the importance of degrees relative to the importance of what a student wants from their educational experience. And define education that meets what the student wants, right, in order to help advance innovation and advance the economic prosperity of the regions we serve. We're also thinking about how we can reach deeper into the schools, and we're inspired by UW-Oshkosh in this regard, about how we can take the university and work into the public schools, right, to help make sure we're increasing the pipeline into education. right? We do this through what we call Rising Phoenix and other programs. But again, we're inspired by what's happening across the system and these kind of innovations. And finally, we're working very hard to connect directly with businesses and to provide education directly for what the businesses in our region want. So as opposed to thinking of how to have a student leave the business they're working and come to us, we're thinking about how we go to the businesses and ask them what their employees need and be able to provide that as an institution. So to think innovatively about how we deliver education, not just in person or online, but in all ways for how we can access students. I'll turn it back over to President Rothman.
Okay, thank you, Chancellor Alexander. Let me stop here and see if there's any reaction from the board. We've identified 4 goals under economic prosperity, the theme advancing economic prosperity, culture of innovation, supporting the employer community and their workforce needs, ensuring financial stability and sustainability, and I'll talk about that in a few minutes, and then promoting differentiation. Are we on the right course?
Hector.
Thank you. How do you see differentiation playing out in the strategic plan over the 5 years?
The question was, how do I see differentiation playing out? I think ideally, in my perfect world, and the chancellors may not necessarily agree with this because we don't always agree, I've learned in this process, which is a good thing, is that each university would have things that it is really well known for. And that's not to say it's not going to be a comprehensive university. That's not the point. But it would make a difference as a student looks at it. Do I go to this university or I go to that university, depending on what its expertise may have? Because I think, my experience has been if you are deemed to be good at 3 or 4 things, people are going to think you're good at everything, and that's probably true. So I think looking at it from that standpoint is just to double down on really having centers of excellence among our universities, understanding that we're in a matrix at some level, Regent Cologne, because as a practical matter, there are some students that can't travel. They have to live at home to go to the university. So if they want to do something they want to be a journalism major or they want to be a civil engineer, it may impact where they can go. So we've got to be able to offer that on a comprehensive basis, but really trying to get universities to really drill down on what they're really great at. Quite frankly, I think that is happening.
Program.
No, I don't think it necessarily means that. I think there will be a greater level of collaboration. I'm pleased to see your microphone is working about as well as mine, so I feel better about myself now. I don't think so, but I think there is collaboration that's already going on among the universities, and I think it's incumbent on us. We are actually cataloging that right now, and want to bring this back to the board so you have some sense. But just let me give you one example. When I was visiting with Chancellor Avedovich in Platteville, they've got an arrangement with Oshkosh about how Platteville will start people in the nursing program and they will finish in Oshkosh, as opposed to creating a nursing program, which is an expensive program to create in Platteville, but yet still satisfying the needs of students in that area to get a nursing degree. There are a multitude of those kind of collaborations that are going around program array, and I think that is going to continue. But again, I think the plan does not contemplate that our comprehensive universities become non-comprehensive universities. There's still going to be comprehensive universities.
Jim Bechtel.
Yeah, thank you, President Rothman. I think we're off to a good start, and I do understand this is a preliminary plan and more is to come. I did take a look at Chapter 36 coming in today's meeting, 33 pages double-spaced, and I'm impressed and reminded that a lot of the work that you're doing is fully consistent with statutes and even the creation of the system. This is the stuff that we are to do as regents. And just want to call out a couple of points kind of under the differentiation piece that Chancellor Alexander talked about. I do agree with that differentiation, and I've expressed my frustration to you, President Rothman, that as a leader on the Regents board, all of us as leaders, I haven't I haven't really done the exercise of what are all the campuses doing, how are they differentiated, how are they meeting like the performance funding goals. We get some reports and we get some things, but there's really not a concentrated presentation so that we as leaders can say, these are the goals of the various campuses, are they meeting the goals? Which kind of leads into, we already have some stuff in the statutes that says there's certain measurements that we should be asking for and reporting on an annual basis to the Joint Finance Committee. That's under the performance funding section of the statute. And I know we do that, but again, there's got to be a more organic way and more regular way that reporting and evaluation opportunity is here before us as we go forward. That would also then, I mean, and you all are the experts on this, what would be some of the metrics that are going to follow on to the strategic plan? You know, if we talk about availability and access, the income levels of the folks we're serving, the age bands, how many are first generation, how many are some college, gender, national origin, race, you know, all the demographic information really should be presented to us, I think, on a more regular basis for each of the institutions. And how does the campus reflect the local available population? Your point on high school students and as they matriculate, you know, how are we doing that and how are they serving, you know, their neighborhoods, if you will? Graduation rates. How do we differentiate the academic standards and the insights of the institutions? Number of degrees conferred. I'm glad to hear, you know, the bogey of 41,000. We do need more college-educated persons in this state. And this is something that we're going to have to work with our friends in the legislature because not all of them see the value, I believe, of the knowledge economy. And, you know, there's some people say, well, we need more plumbers, we need more machinists. We need those people, but to really move this state into the economy that we all know we're moving to, we need more 4-degree persons. We do not compare well to Minnesota. We do not compare well to Michigan and some other states. So I think there's work to be done and really a persuasion that I think we need to do as Regents with our partners. So, you know, there'd be other metrics, but I look forward in the future as this gets filled out. And I guess just give you the opportunity. Do you agree that we need to do more kind of goal setting and then have some evaluation tools as we look at the various campuses?
I think we do, Regent Bechtel, I think in 2 phases. I think one is you deserve that from the system as a whole. So I think we look at the aggregate goals, and then I think ultimately working with the universities, not to create so many metrics that we don't have anything that makes sense. Because I would argue that and it's nearly 41,000, not 41,000, Regent Bechtel, but that's okay. We'll work about the nuance. In terms of the number of graduates, I'm just pulling your leg. Nearly 41,000, not quite. So we're rounding up a little bit, but that's my fault. No, but really, I think that's going to cause us to have to do some things because, and I want to step back a little bit as I think about that number, is that when you look at the demographics of the state of Wisconsin, they are skewing in some not really positive trends. We have, our population is getting older. We have fewer students entering the high school years, and we know what that's going to be for the next 18 years, what those numbers are going to look like. And at the same time, we also have net migration out of the state. So I think part of what our challenge is going to be when you look at that number is how are we going to get there? And it by necessity, and this is a big thing, is we're going to have to do a better job of recruiting from underrepresented populations. We're going to have to look at that 600,000 to 800,000 cadre of people in the state who have some college credit but have never finished. I think we're going to have to look at the high school graduate of 2 years ago that went into the workforce because they could make decent money, but is now looking at it and saying, is there something more that I want to do with my life, and how are we going to recruit that person back? And then do we also look at, do we figure out working with the legislature? And I think you're absolutely right. This is something the system can't do on its own. But do we look at figuring out ways to try to bring people into the state to be educated here and then get them into a high impact practice where they get that internship and all of a sudden they stay here? Because I think all of those things are things we're going to have to explore, among other things, in order to be able to achieve that number. But really, deal with an issue that I think is critical for the state. I really do. I think we're at that point where if these jobs leave, they're not coming back. And we've got the opportunity because we've got a great system. We've got the capacity to do this. We just have to look at that population of potential students more broadly than I think we've ever done before.
Regent Adams.
Thank you. Thank you, President Rothman. I agree with Regent Bechtel that we are moving in the right direction. I do have a question about number 2, support the employer community to meet the pressing needs of the workforce. What are your thoughts about the how employers will play a role, given the resource constraints that we're under, and the needs that we have to meet these long-term goals? Words matter, and I agree that we need to support the employer community. But what are your thoughts about the employer community supporting the system to ensure that we're able to collectively meet the goals for the state?
And I think the partnership with the business community is going to be absolutely critical for us to achieve that. And I think you saw that today in Chancellor Schmidt's presentation and the great relationship they have with Mayo and the synergies that are derived from that. I think we're going to have to be looking at that across the board. Our chancellors have done a really good job across the board in building those relationships. I think we simply need to continue to build that and be talking to the employers about how we can do them. They have needs for employees. What can we do to help connect them with the talent pool that's coming through the university? How can we get them involved in internships, in co-ops? Can we do job fairs? Can we have the business community come in and say, listen, here are jobs that are available that you may not even be thinking about doing what you're doing, to open people's horizons? Where can we get the business community and industry in particular to help fund research that they need, and work on that more? Can we look at businesses in terms of scholarships, in terms of other financial support for the university? Because we are in a symbiotic relationship. We are in a symbiotic relationship with the business community, and we've got to continue to build on those great relationships that, quite frankly, the chancellors already have. But I would hope that we could take that to the next plateau in terms of what we can do. But I think that's going to be essential for us to be successful.
Regent Atwell.
I trust we'll have an opportunity for further questions at the end.
Absolutely.
Yeah. In the meantime, I have a timely question to direct to Chancellor Alexander. And I would ask that you address this with the candor that has come to characterize our relationship. What is your assessment of Regent President Walsh's conducting skills on display at noon today?
Careful.
It's clear this was not her first time on the podium, is what I would say. It was outstanding.
Moving right along. Do you have an actual question, Regent Atwell?
I yield my time to the gentleman from wherever.
Very good. Regent Rye.
He's just trying to not have that reputation of being that guy.
Yeah.
Thank you, first of all, for all the work that's been put forward so far, and really do recognize that this is not the finished product. Regent Clone asked a question talking about consolidation, and I think the first thing that came out was no, it's not about that. And I understand that, and my intent is not to create an environment of people worrying about consolidation, et cetera. But I do worry, since I've been on the board now for a little over a year, for us to grow and to be sustainable for the state of Wisconsin, our model needs to be evaluated. How we spend money, how we generate money. We seem to be quoting Mayo a lot today, and thank goodness my heart is repaired every time you do that.
I apologize for that, Regent Rye. So.
Oh, it's okay. But I'm going to quote them because they actually, I went to a presentation that they had made recently on their financial and growth success, and it was called Shrink to Grow. And I've somewhat stolen that internally at my own organization in looking at structural opportunities and changes. So when I talk shrink to grow, I'm not talking about closing a campus or closing a program. But at some point, we have to look at the revenue necessary to accomplish these goals. I don't think the state can continue to support at a level that are going to help us accomplish the goals, and that may be due to politics, or that just may be due to the revenue situation that the state might be in. And as we look at the economic situation of the world right now, so I would implore those that are working on this strategic plan, and as my fellow regents and I have an opportunity to review it, that we understand where the revenue is going to come from and where the money is going to be spent, because to graduate 41,000 plus students, we may need to shrink first to be able to afford to do that, and don't want anything off the table when it comes to that kind of conversation.
And as our Chancellor Alexander noted, I will cover at the end the issue around financial sustainability and have that, we welcome that conversation. I would argue, though, Regent Rye, that as we look at the funds that are necessary to maintain this institution, and this is an incredible institution. When you think about the size of this state, and to have a university system that is this well recognized, is pretty extraordinary. And if you think about where you can best invest dollars, I would argue that the investment in human capital into a knowledge economy is something that I hope would have some appeal to us as citizens of the state of Wisconsin. And I think that is a message we need to continue to deliver, because I think it is that important. I mean, in the same way that we need to invest in infrastructure, bridges and sewers and roads, if we are not investing in our human capital, this state will look very different a generation from now than it does today, and that would be a shame, in my humble opinion.
Jim Posh.
In the planning process, there's a lot of detailed discussion that goes on relative to why these statements are here over a period of time. We had an enrollment report that shows approximately 160,000 students. That certainly relates to revenue. But as I read the planning statements that were placed, I think it was 7 or 8, nowhere in any of those planning statements did it address students, student outcomes, or student learning. The primary, in my mind, focus of this institution. And so I'm just kind of curious. I see it as the items are sprinkled throughout the goals and the core values, but I'm curious why it wasn't part of the planning statements.
And I think that, and I don't mean to be avoiding the question, Regent Posh, but my suggestion is that is a perfect segue into what Chancellor Wachter is going to discuss, because it really focuses on enhancing the student experience, which goes to the quality of education and the focus on the student, because I don't want to lose sight of that. So with the permission of the Regents, why don't we go on to the second theme, which hopefully will address your question. If we don't address your question, then please come back to us. So
Yes, Chancellor Wachter.
Terrific. So we identified 4 goals that fall within this theme. And I think these are, some of the goals that we are the most passionate about as chancellors, because it relates to the very core of what we do, which is teaching and learning, and the entire ecosystem of support that our universities provide to our students. Central to this mission is our commitment to access as a system, to closing those opportunity gaps, and to improve student learning outcomes. We also know that improving student success requires that we have high-level supports for students across the entire education life cycle, from when they enter to the point of graduation to going on for career placement. And we recognize that we can't excel and do this work in teaching and learning, research, or service without high-quality, diverse, and excellent faculty and staff. And so you'll see the last goal on this slide notes that we must not only recruit the best faculty and staff, but we have to continue to invest in their skills and abilities once they're with us so that we retain them. And I know you're interested in talking about and hearing about access, closing the gap, and learning. And I'm going to talk about specifically closing the gap and give you some examples about what happens to students once they come to us. So I'll leave the access part alone, but I'll talk about closing the gap. I think that this closing the gap is one of the most complicated opportunities that we face as universities, because each individual that comes to us does so with unique skills, abilities, assumptions, and expectations. And believe me, there is no one program that is a silver bullet, because we are bright people and we would have figured that out and we would have implemented it as soon as we could. And each region is going to have a different set of students and different populations that they're dealing with. And I'm just going to use our example of the region of the North. Now, our region has less URM diversity, but we have significant numbers of first generation and those that come from a lower socioeconomic background. Wisconsin's rural north has extremely high levels of poverty. In Douglas County alone, 39% of the students receive free or reduced lunch, and I actually know that that statistic within Superior is much, much higher. The bachelor's degree attainment is only about 25%, and per capita income is about $31,000. Not a whole lot. We know that we are the second in the system in terms of the amount of money that our students borrow. It's like 72% of them. And we're the second highest right after Parkside in terms of the number of percentage of Pell-eligible students. And we desperately want to meet these students where they are in their education and their life experience and give them the tools to succeed. But given that complexity, I think there's two approaches. So I brought props. The first is what I call the bag of marbles approach. The second is the nested bowls and the string of pearls. Now, the bag of marbles occurs when you know that there's a problem to be addressed and areas in the university start devising programs and solutions, thereby creating a marble. So at UW-Superior, we have lots of programs designed to help students. We have 15 to finish, so we want to make sure that they're taking 15 credits each semester so that they get out in a reasonable time. We have programming that's coming out of our student support centers, everything from the Educational Success Center, First Nations, gender equity, lots of programming specifically designed to help students be successful. We have programs like Jumpstart, which is aimed at the URMs that do come to us. It's a cohort program with programming in that first year so that they feel connected. We have Mentor Connect, which pairs undergraduates with new freshmen so that they have a support system and somebody to relate to right away. We have Math Fast Track, say that quickly, pairs undergraduates with new freshmen, and it's a college math boot camp so that when they come to us, if they've forgotten that stuff in high school, they get a chance to refresh it before they get their math placement. We've made changes to remedial math to co-enroll students so that they don't lose time. We use our CRM system called Navigate, which if you remember what Navigate is, helps us track student performance. We can send alerts, faculty can send alerts, and then we've got a care team that follows up on those alerts to see how students are doing and what interventions are necessary. We have peer tutors with some of our most difficult classes. We have an educational support center, which provides opportunities for assistance. We have career center programming, interview coaching, job fairs, handshake. We have revised our advising model about 5 years ago to include professional advisors in the first 2 years and then faculty advisors the last 2 years so that they get a good solid start and good solid advising. We have learning communities in the residence halls to make sure that students are getting connected and have places to connect to. We're looking at holds prior to student registration to make sure that are there things that we can waive. So if the balance that they owe isn't too high, or if it's just like a parking fine or a library fine, we waive those because we want those students to go back in and get re-registered. We have even looked at all of our correspondence to make sure that it's inclusive and as encouraging as possible, even if it's a little on the disciplinary side. We have scholarships and other forms of financial aid. We have a food pantry and more. And man, if you look at these marbles, they are beautiful. Each individual program is a beautiful thing. But the problem is our students are in this bag of marbles bouncing around, and sometimes it's hard to know what the impact is or how they're navigating that maze of marbles. And believe me, our universities are very creative in creating marbles. And we were really frustrated because we think that we can do better. And so when we talk about how are we going to help our students, I think helping them through increasing our retention rates is part of the key. And so we are thinking differently. And we're using what I call the nested bowl approach. And so we are trying to create a seamless experience, stringing together those marbles to be a beautiful string of pearls that's going to provide a pathway. Now, our strategic plan is all about the student experience, and there's 3 pillars. The first one has to do with the curriculum. It has to do with very careful curation of that curriculum and aligning it with industry needs. The second is making sure that we've got a culture of care on the campus. The third is about student success. So specifically, we've got a pillar in the strategic plan because we know that what is in the plan is going to get attention. And it also helps us make decisions when we're allocating our resources. So that is the thing that's covering our bowls. This next bowl, this is our student success team. And it is across the campus. It is eliminating silos. We have academics, advising, student affairs, admissions, athletics, faculty, support staff, institutional research. There are 23 people across the university breaking down silos, providing the brain power, and most importantly, a comprehensive cross-sectional view of that experience that a student has. Then the next bowl. We are working with Complete College America, who's helping us look at our performance data and our programming, helping us make sense of our marbles, helping us create new ones if we need them, and then guiding us on how to best string all that together. And they've told us, you have many strengths. You have good raw material. You have great marbles, UW Superior, but how we put that all together is what's going to be the key. And they've done a lot of research, and students must see the end pathway to make sense of their experience, the why of their college experience, and feel like they belong. So there's 3 things we're going to be focusing on. One is the student experience during the first year, making sure it's seamless, connections with each other, support systems, belongingness, and pride. The second is, while we offer many of these, it's making sure that that network is very clear. Housing, food, mental health, childcare, and financial. And the third, which I'm really excited about, is what we call Purpose First. It's aligning the college experience to each student's goals for the future by incorporating career exploration and academic and career alignment. It means taking advising to yet the next level, incorporating onboarding to support student choice, strengthening employer engagement, and connecting competencies to programs of study. And for those of you who are process junkies, we've already done a lean process review of our advising model. And last Tuesday, I am so proud to say we received a $2 million Title III grant, which will help us do this over the next 5 years. So when we talk about where can funding come from, things like that can be very helpful. I'm almost there. The next bowl is mapping all of this to every single area on the campus so that everybody's role in student success is crystal clear, using accountability measures, and divisional plans and activities are aligned. And at the very end, what do you get? No longer the bag of marbles. You get this beautifully, lovely, interconnected string of pearls, which is the clear pathway for students to get the support they need to succeed. And the prize, I think the best thing of all of this work is we know that if we're successful, yeah, we're going to help students go out into the workforce, but more importantly, I think it's helping those students reach their best potential as individuals. So that's what we're working on.
Thank you, Renee, very much. And I think Regent Posh, hopefully you saw there is one example of the focus on the student in terms of student success and delivering the highest quality education we can, because that is an absolute key component, I think, of what we'd be looking for in the plan.
Yes, Regent Clone.
Thank you. Good presentation. One question relating to how will you measure success? How will you know successful after these 5 years?
I think in terms of equity, diversity, and inclusion, there will be metrics, and I think there have to be at least two set of general metrics. What does the student body look like, and is it closer to representing what the state of Wisconsin looks like? But I think that the same also has to occur when we look at the faculty and staff. And is our faculty and staff moving toward looking a lot like at least the university looks like? Because without those two components, I don't think we're going to be successful, because students coming in have to be able to look at faculty and staff that look like them, to know that they belong and that they can be successful. So I think that's what we're starting to look at, Regent Cologne. I think the broader piece of this is because we did talk about, do we do a separate plan for ED&I? And having done that in my prior life, I've concluded that really separates it in a way that is unnatural. That it's not, we don't have a separate ED&I plan. ED&I has to inform everything we do in our main strategic plan. But I think those would be the metrics that we look at.
Question. So I think one of the things that we need to think about communicating better is how much higher education has changed. Comments I have heard over the years from alumni, some of them run along the lines of, we didn't have all that hand-holding when I was in school. You got thrown into the deep end of the pool with the piranhas and hope you swam well enough. And that model may have worked, post-World War II when we had students coming out of our ears, but that's not the case now. And I guess my question is, how well positioned are we to provide this high-touch support activity in Chancellor Wachter's string of pearls?
I think we are under-resourced right now in that area, and that's going to be a challenge, because I think one of the things we're going to have to come back to you in December is some set of prioritization. When you look at our relative statistics across the system as a whole, not in any one individual university, and those may differ, but when you look at the load that people are bearing either as academic advisors or career advisors, we are understaffed as it relates to that. But I keep coming back, President Walsh, to the standpoint is we're not going to hit our graduation goals unless we have more resources and do exactly what Chancellor Wachter was doing and beyond, because the fact of the matter is that's what is expected, that's what's going to be needed to get those students through to graduation. And if we're going to serve the state and produce a number of graduates, that's just, I don't even like to call it a cost of doing business, because that's not a good way to look at it. That's what it's going to take. That's the resource allocation it's going to take to make it work, I think. But you can see the great ideas that are coming up and what impact that has. But that's a lot of effort beyond, I suspect, that most of us experienced during our days in a university, but that is today's world.
Any other questions? All right, I think we're ready to, Regent Atwell.
Are we going to hear from Chancellor Mnookin?
Yes, we're just about to hear from her.
We're not done.
We're not done yet.
Thank you, Regent Atwell. That's a perfect transition. Let me shift over and give it to right on cue, Bob. I appreciate that.
Right on cue.
Chancellor Jennifer Mnookin from the University of Wisconsin-Madison is going to speak to the third strategy area, and that is fostering civic engagement and serving the public good. Jennifer.
Thank you. We'll see if one of these works. Can you all hear me? Yes? Excellent. All right. I don't know if it's this magic or the pitch of your voice. We'll have
I
to
think
do
it may be me, but
we'll
I don't want to come to that
later.
conclusion. All right.
So you can see 4 more goals up here on the slide, and all of these are under the fostering civic engagement and serving the public good. I think it's important to note that a lot of these goals are interconnected. Some of these also serve economic prosperity, and some of, so they're not neatly separated buckets, but I think it represents a thoughtful effort to try to create 12 goals that I think we collectively do believe are really central. President Rothman asked me to focus particularly on number 9, the research function of our university system, which I think I could do presentations on each of these, and they do partly connect, but I'm going to focus in the next few minutes primarily on the research function, in part because, as the state flagship, it is the place where we are very deeply focused and deeply invested, and it's core to our success, and we think it's also core to the system's success and to the state, including the economic prosperity of the state, to go back to the earlier goal. I thought I would start by sharing with you a little bit about where we stand in terms of research funding, and then just a little bit about some of our research and some of the opportunities as well as the challenges. We, as you may have heard this statistic before, we're currently 8th overall in the nation for total research funding. According to what's called the HERD data produced by the National Science Foundation, Higher Education Research and Development Rankings, which looks at a very large range of schools and their total research funding. And so we are currently 8th, at Madison, we are currently 8th in the country. A year ago, that was about $1.3 billion in annual research expenditures across all fields, and roughly half of it came from federal funding of research. Now, the federal funding system is intensely reviewed. It's highly competitive. It's typically assessed and evaluated by peers in the same and related fields. There's no question that it brings enormous value to our region. It contributes to the entrepreneurial ecosystem. It has a powerful multiplier effect on the economy. It leads to hiring, it leads to training, it leads to procurement, it leads to intellectual property, it leads to startups, it leads to part of the knowledge economy that Jay was discussing earlier. It creates additional jobs, and there's just no question that the state is very much benefited, not just because of the research that's done, but because of the ancillary industry and market opportunities that result as well. Now, 8th sounds great, but that strength is not something to be taken for granted. And in fact, it represents something of a decline. While we have a great deal to be proud of about our research enterprise, we are, relatively speaking, less strong than we used to be. From 1972, the year that the rankings were created, until around 2015, UW-Madison was in the top 5 in the country for research expenditures. We then fell to 6th for a couple of years, and now we're at 8th. Moreover, if you look at federal funding in particular, we are now 16th, and back in 2010, we were in the top 10. So in a relative, our dollars of federal funding have gone up modestly over that period, but relatively speaking, compared to our number of our peers, we are not as strong as we used to be. If you look just at federal funding, we used to be ahead of schools like North Carolina, like the University of North Carolina and Penn State in the total federal funding per year. And right now, they're both modestly ahead of us, to just give you some perspective here. We were hurt by several years of funding cuts and uncertainties that really made a difference. And you've seen some of those charts in the past. And that affected faculty hiring. It affected our space opportunities. And while our current hiring has been robust and our federal funding has been increasing in the last couple of years, and we had a good year this past year as well, overall, over the last couple of years, our federal funding has been increasing less quickly than some of our competitors. And part of that is about our ability and our struggles to invest in space and infrastructure and the ways that we are still lagging behind a number of our competitor institutions in that regard. And you got a little taste of that earlier today. Now, that's about sort of the numbers and competition with others, and that matters. These relative numbers matter. But it also matters because of the research that we're trying to do, the problems that we're trying to solve, the ways that we're trying to contribute new knowledge to this state, to the world, and giving students the opportunity to have extraordinary research experiences and train experts who will also make some of the great innovations of tomorrow. Many of our research programs are directly applicable to enormously significant public and scientific challenges. That was true a century ago when Stephen Babcock developed a simple and effective method for measuring butterfat content in milk, which revolutionized the dairy industry and led to Wisconsin leading the nation in milk and cheese production. And it remains true today. UW-Madison researchers have been at the forefront of COVID-19 research, for example, throughout the pandemic, and in fact have brought in more than $91 million of funding for COVID-19 research across more than 80 COVID-related research grants, to give you just one example. Our ability to do that stemmed from research that was already underway at UW-Madison. We already had some research relating to coronaviruses, not the novel coronavirus, which didn't exist yet, but coronaviruses in general. And we also had a substantial amount of research looking at disease vectors from animals to humans because of the strengths that we had in research there. And that translated into both opportunities for our researchers to get important funding and equally important for them to do research that really has mattered during the pandemic. It's also important to recognize that today's applied research is often a product of yesterday's pure research. And so we strongly believe in the importance of both. I thought I'd give you just a very quick overview of a few of the areas where we have considerable research strength, especially because that did come up as a question earlier. This is nothing like a complete assessment, and as you all know, I've been here for now almost 2 months, but this is some of what I've already been seeing and learning about our tremendous strengths. They range from IceCube, which some of you may have heard about, where we're searching for neutrinos, for subatomic particles, and we have a detector that's underneath the ice cap at the South Pole. This has received, I think, hundreds of millions of dollars in funding. We do it in collaboration with other institutions, not alone. In fact, more than 200 neutrino researchers from all over the world came to Madison just about a week ago. But we are the leaders of of IceCube and this detection process, which is helping us understand basic dimensions of space-time, cosmic rays, and some of the mysteries of the universe. We have the Great Lakes Biofuels Project, which has been getting around $25 million annually from the Department of Energy, looking at both non-food crops and whether they can be planted in areas that aren't otherwise usable and then turned into biofuel. Is there a way of creating biofuel out of space and areas that otherwise aren't being used in arable or terribly productive ways? And also doing a good deal of research on how we can most efficiently gain biofuel from products in ways that can make biofuel production more efficient and more cost effective. So that's just another example of some of the research that we're doing. I mentioned COVID research already. Quantum is another critically important area. Our Wisconsin Quantum Institute works to solve all kinds of problems to advance our understanding of the physical world, and quantum has grown increasingly of interest to both the federal government and industry. We don't completely know what it's going to permit, but there's a great deal of interest in how quantum computing is going to create a set of practical possibilities as well as theoretical insights. Our Carbone Cancer Center is something that also many of you, I hope, already know about. It's Wisconsin's only comprehensive cancer research institute, and it gets considerable funding from the National Cancer Institute, as well as from other federal sources, as well as philanthropy. And it spans dozens of our departments. We have researchers engaging in cancer research from many departments across 11 different schools. And it's really, again, an incredible strength of the university. And it's both doing pure research and applied translational research, as well as quite considerable numbers of clinical trials. So I share all of this just to give you a flavor. There's so much more. I mean, if you just start perusing our news site, you can read about a patent that's in the works, about a new 3D printing technique that let our researchers develop a way to make a kind of steel that used to be extremely expensive to make, and now 3D printing may be able to make much, much less expensively. They had to use quite sophisticated technology to develop this technique. It may work for other materials as well, and they're already working on a patent about it. There's other research going on around concussions and traumatic brain injuries, around Alzheimer's, around plasma. I mean, the list could go on and on. So these forms of knowledge really make a difference to our state, to our economy, and frankly to the world, to human flourishing, to our ability to do better and to be better tomorrow. I focused on STEM-related research, but it certainly is not the only kind, and I could give you lots more examples, but I also know that we don't have too much time. But our Institute for Poverty Research is another just very strong example of policy-related research that's making an enormous concrete difference to our knowledge about the causes of poverty and ways of ameliorating it. Broadly speaking, successful research programs depend on hiring and retaining exceptional faculty, talented faculty and staff, many of whom have other opportunities and options. They don't have to be with us, they need to want to be with us. And so having a strong infrastructure, a strong culture, and support for research is absolutely critical to our success. We need to have the people, the investments in people. We also need to have the labs and spaces to conduct research effectively. We also need to have well-functioning, smooth, and relatively frictionless systems for supporting grants, for being able to go about purchasing, for meeting our compliance requirements. And we need all the bureaucratic apparatuses that surround research to work as well. So staying strong as a research powerhouse requires consistent investment in people, in innovation, and in space, as well as ensuring that there's a climate that generates and nurtures creativity, ideas, and engagements, and thinks about equity, diversity, inclusion, and belonging in the research space as well. I do also want to note that research can contribute directly to the other goals that were listed on the previous slide that I've spent less time talking about. Take sustainability. I've already given you one example of a research program that is explicitly about sustainability. Sustainability depends in part on practices on our campuses and what we're doing, but addressing climate change effectively will hugely depend on scientific innovations from a great many disciplines, as well as social scientific research about behavior and how to impact behavior, and effective policy engagement and regulatory tools as well. Even civil and high-quality discourse, something that, as Jay has noted, is sometimes lacking in our polarized times, can be enhanced and benefited by research. Just one example, our School of Education's discussion project. It's an effort to improve the quality of classroom conversation and to better create classroom communities in areas ranging from chemistry to political science and at both the high school and the university level. That project's also researching about how, whether, and to what extent better and in more engaged classroom conversations can also support student engagement and achievement in ways that that project is looking to define and measure, to see whether that matters. So investing in research, infrastructure, effective processes, and people has a huge multiplier effect on the economic development of our state, and on what's possible and the knowledge in the world to create tomorrow's innovations. It also creates amazing opportunities for our students. We have an enormous amount to be proud of at UW-Madison, and we also have strengths in research in other places in the system as well, including, of course, at UW-Milwaukee, and we heard about things happening here at Eau Claire earlier today. But I hope that this brief presentation can show how critically important that we not take research strength And frankly, that we not take Madison's research strength for granted. It's a precious commodity, but it's also fragile. And it's something that has benefited the state and the world, and I hope that it's part of our collective responsibility to ensure that it continues to flourish for the sake of our state, our students, and for humanity. Thank you.
Thank you, Chancellor Mnookin. Questions? Yes, Regent Bechtel.
Yeah, Chancellor Mnookin, you've only been here a couple months, but the passion is felt. So I very much appreciate your articulation and giving us a very important reminder of how important research is for the entire university system. But let's face it, we're doing the best work at Madison currently. And so I think I agree, it's a fragile ecosystem. And as we talked about this morning in the capital planning group, we're going to we're putting a proposal on the floor tomorrow for full endorsement, unanimous vote today, so that we can have some very important research labs that are funded and placed in a kind of creative way to so we have that urgency too, as you saw us express that this morning. So I would never, ever take Madison for granted. What I do want to do, though, is I want to pivot a little bit, and President Rothman, I think maybe some of the questions today were because the materials that came to us kind of came in bits and pieces. So for instance, when you articulate, I think you had 7 kind of big bullet points. We didn't have that in the packet. So the idea that there's 2 R1s, we're going to increase Madison's position, we're going to increase UWM's research dollars. Some of that was now verbally articulated, but we didn't see that in the material. So just so that we're aware of that, and that's fine. This is an iterative process, and we're getting through it. But I do want to address UWM and the R1s, because as you know, as a Milwaukee business person, I'm a Milwaukee business person, we're hearing loud and clear from Milwaukee and the Southeast region, which is still the economic engine of the state, also the home of a large base of talent, and also those that have more limited access to higher education institutions because of some of the barriers that are in existence with some of those communities. And I think it's correct to say that we want to increase UWM's research dollars, but I would also like to see, as the plans develop, that we also address that UWM may be one of the places we can really build access and build the talent pipeline. And so just as we kind of move through the plan, I think there's more to making some investments, more investments in UWM as our other R1 that fill out, as Chancellor Mnookin has just indicated, some of those other pillars and value propositions that we have. And, you know, these are pretty targeted things. We know we need more data scientists in that area. NML is crying out for them, Johnson Controls and other. Healthcare, both public and private. Healthcare is, we're crying out for nurses and other professionals. Business and finance and business administration, engineering, teachers. So you've ticked off on all those different kind of key talent pools that are a little shallow right now, but in particular, Southeast Wisconsin is crying for them, especially as we fill in that corridor with our friends at Parkside and everything that's happening between Milwaukee and Chicago. So just kind of a, do you agree with me that there's probably, you know, we have the premier R1 in Madison, and we have a relatively new R1 in UWM, and how do we kind of, if we're going to put more resources to those R1s, do you agree there's a way to kind of articulate it to shape this out, and maybe we should see that in the plan going forward?
I think we have to address it, Regent Bechtel. I think the challenge we have with all of this is, will there be the investment dollars to make in the investments that we think are critical? Because right now, just to be very candid, and with my 3+ month assessment, we are not paying our faculty competitively. We have an aging infrastructure. We have huge workforce demand needs that require investment. And we want to maintain we want to maintain R1 status at Milwaukee. We want to enhance Madison's rankings, because I think that is critical to the state. And we want to make sure that we can support students through that
pathway that Chancellor Wachter talked about. Okay. If we continue with the resource base that we have today, we will not be successful in achieving those goals. It's as simple as that in my mind. And I don't mean to be that blunt, but I think that's reality.
Regent Atwell.
Thank you all very much. President Rothman, you know I expressed a degree of skepticism up front about the sort of exclusively bottom-up approach, but I have to commend you on what's been accomplished so far. I think while the materials we have to date are largely aspirational, I think they are meaningful, and absolutely agree that the why and the who is where the process has to start. And we have to get to the what and the how. That's the work yet to be done. I believe we need greater clarification, and I think it would be helpful to greater clarify the role, really the relationships and the respective roles of the Board of Regents, UW-SA, the campuses, shared governance, and frankly, the governor's office and the legislature, because we make a compelling case for investment. And we mean investment. We mean investment is not the same as an expense, right? An investment generates its return. And I think what we really need, because I believe our state has the financial capacity and the need to invest in our future, we need to build the consensus, which is very challenging, about how and where to invest. And that's the really hard work that is yet to come. I think that it's important to clarify for everybody, again, the respective roles. I do see the document as it's presented. My one sort of concrete criticism is when I read the roles of the UW system administration, it sounds like you work for the campuses. And I agree that you support the campuses. We want you to support the campuses, but I think the statutory role of UW-SA is to be the arm of implementation for this board, which has the statutory responsibility. And I fully support the cooperative work that UW-SA has to do on behalf of the campuses, but I think it's important for everyone to understand where we are, and I think we should spend some time on that, which gets to a number of regents, I think, have talked among ourselves about the need for this board to have a strategy, which is also very difficult. And we've talked about doing that for some years, and I think when it gets to the difficult questions surrounding not only resource development, but resource allocation, because one of the ways to fund investment is to reallocate existing dollars. I would argue we need to do both. Make the case for incremental investment, but also really look at the harder decisions surrounding how we, as 26 locations, best serve the future of the state. Because our architecture was created in the 1970s in a very, very different time with different demographic expectations and a different technological options, a different temperament among the people. So if you will accept sort of the long rambling comments that I've made, I appreciate the work to date. Drucker's famous comment about strategy, culture eats strategy for breakfast or lunch or whatever, I've heard both, but it's execution that puts dinner on the table. And we have hard work to do to make those allocation decisions, and I think, yes, good start, but the real hard work is yet to come, but you can't do the hard work if you don't start where you did, so thank you.
No, and I appreciate that, Regent Atwell, and we will add Atwell's corollary to Drucker's about execution, but you did raise a couple of points, and I know we're getting short on time, President Walsh, but let me get through a couple of slides relatively quickly, and I think the first thing Regent Atwell, you raised was, what is, let's talk a little bit about the role of the system. And Jenny, we can go to the next slide if you would. In terms of what we need to do yet, in my mind, is we need to hone down on some specific strategies and metrics at the system administration level to start. And at the university level, each of our universities, as I think you've seen, are in different positions. But I think the goal, at least from my mind, is what way we need to proceed is to look at, assuming that there's general consensus around this table of the goals that we have set forth, is for us then to go back and say, okay, from a system administration standpoint, what are the strategies and tactics we're going to employ, and then go back to the universities on a case-by-case basis. We're not going to have a comprehensive plan. I would note, Regent Atwell, that when you talk about this board having to have a plan, my recommendation is that this is what we're presenting would be a regent-approved plan, and you have to be comfortable and bought into it, because I think that is your role as the oversight board, is to set the strategic direction for the system. Our role in this is to try to present something to you that we think will work, that we think is rational and will serve the state well. But ultimately, it is your decision, and that's why we wanted to bring you those goals in draft form today. On the next slide, if we look at it and say, what is the role of the UW system administration vis-a-vis the universities, and we really look at it from two different perspectives. One is there is a support role that the system does, whether that's in the context of resource allocation, because the system is the clearinghouse through which the priorities of this board dictate how those resources are going to be allocated. We serve an advocacy function with the legislature, with the business community, with students, with parents, with the community at large. The system serves as a coordinator, a connector, a facilitator, so that we get the collaboration that Regent Cologne was talking about, because we start identifying opportunities for the universities to work together. And finally, in terms of shared services, that we provide those services where we can do that efficiently. But just as importantly is the stewardship role, which is really the oversight role, that we are responsible as system administration, as your representatives, and we work for you at, clearly from a governance perspective, that we provide the oversight consistent with the statutory mandates of Chapter 36, and as well as being informed by risk management principles, and that we work with you to help you fulfill as regents your fiduciary responsibilities. That's the role of the system administration, and that we work collectively as a team kind of going forward. But that, I think, is the important point. Let me get to the next slide, which will be our last slide, but then I want to make sure we have further conversation. Well, this is not it. You can go on to the next one, Jenny, but no, I mean, this is fine. You heard Chancellor Alexander speak about fostering innovation and trying new things, really advancing prosperity, the economic prosperity, that theme. Secondly, Chancellor Wachter talked about enhancing the student experience and driving social mobility, and to create the pearls. And you heard Chancellor Mnuchin talk about the global leader in research and the critical nature that has to the system, but everything else that the university system does to serve the state of Wisconsin. I did want to come back to that goal 3, which is ensuring that the universities comprising the system are financially sustainable and operationally efficient. Really going to Regent Atwell's comment, say, okay, basically I think what you are asking is, okay, how are you going to prioritize, how are you going to pay for all of this? And I think, we have to enhance our revenue base. And we have to, whether we do that through greater philanthropic giving, whether we get greater support from the business community, whether we get, greater investment from governmental sources, whether that be the state of Wisconsin or the federal government, or other opportunities, the revenue levers that we have in order to make the investments. And I agree with you, Regent Atwell, these are investments. The challenge with it is that the university system per se doesn't see the return on investment. The state of Wisconsin does, but that's okay. But we need to make those investments, and we need a broader revenue base to do that. At the same time, we also have to be looking at creating operational efficiencies. You know, we've identified some strategies to try to do that, including developing greater cross-campus collaborations, and I shared with you the one example from Platteville. There are a number of them. Developing more shared services, where we can provide services on a more leveraged basis, can do more and deliver them more efficiently. That we have to deliver on the promises of the administrative transformation program, which should by in itself drive efficiencies, but also create data that can be analyzed so that we are making decisions based on data analytics. That we need to continue to address our two-year campuses to ensure that they can be economically viable, because that's critical, and that they are also there to provide a point of access for students. And my hope is we can achieve that. And we also need to look at reviewing and modifying some policies that make some of the changes that we need to make more difficult. And we talk about that culture of innovation, of allowing for some level of risk that Chancellor Alexander talked about. I think all of those have to occur. And finally, I am going to suggest that we should be employing zero-based budgeting principles at the system level, at the system administration level, to see where we are spending money, where maybe we shouldn't. How can we change that so that we in turn can get that money down to the universities? I think all of those things are things that we need to do to drive what we need to accomplish. But I think you're absolutely right. This is going to require some prioritization in terms of the investments we're going to make. And you know, how much can we do and how much can we not accomplish? Just in terms of the time frame going forward, we still need to go back and talk to additional stakeholders as we go through the process. Regent Atwell, you mentioned shared governance. We've had 2 meetings with shared governance. We will continue to have those meetings. We need to refine, I think, as Regent Bechtold had suggested, you know, what are the specific strategies that are going to flow, as well as setting those metrics and targets. We need to be thinking about implementation planning as we think about how we're going to do this. But the most important piece in this is coming back to this board in December with a more fully baked plan for your consideration as a Board of Regents plan for the university system. And you know, assuming we get approval of that, is to start launching as early as this board acts, so that we're ready to go kind of moving forward. So that's where we are at. Why don't I stop there and see if there are any additional comments, thoughts?
Regent Walks.
Well, yeah, I think he pretty much hit it all on the head. Seems to me we've got a multi-dimensional problem in some respects. Number one, I think Chancellor a lot of excellent points about incorporating and bringing people, making them and in May, you talked, Alexander talked about it a couple weeks ago. We need to have people feel a buy-in to the system in general. I think that may help funding, help top to bottom, the whole situation. But and this morning we had very impressive presentations dealing with how to use economies of scale in purchases and trying to lessen our costs there. But I think that if we can reach out to those that feel left behind, you know, and through history, some of that, I think it helps in every respect. And I think this plan is in the right direction.
Thank you.
Yes, Regent Weatherly.
Thank you, Jay, and thank you for taking time on Monday to brief me and many other regents on what we were going to see here today and have a one-on-one discussion with you. And as you were briefing me on, I said, well, listen, I'll keep my comments between us and private. And you, at the time, very nicely said, no, listen, if you have concerns, air them publicly. We need to have more of that. So I guess that conversation.
I've changed my mind.
So with that as prelude, I would say where I don't want to quibble too much with wording, but I will in this instance. When you've talked about it before, and then when we talked about it today, we talked about enhancing UW-Madison's research operation, but maintaining UWM's research enterprise. And I very much agree with the former part of that. I want to make sure that we're leapfrogging ahead of Harvard, MIT, the great publics, Michigan, Berkeley, et cetera. And I'm confident we're going to get there in relatively short order. What I would like us to be is a bit more aspirational when we think about UWM and large public non-flagship universities. So rather than maintaining Research One, it's about moving to our near peer group, the Iowa states of the world, the Michigan states of the world, the North Carolina states of the world. So, and again, maybe I'm quibbling with wording, but I would change it. I would prefer that we change it to how do we enhance both organizations and not just maintain R1, but how do we move into the top 100? How do we move into the top 75? Very much in both those instances, Madison and Milwaukee, to the benefit of the state.
And I didn't mean to say that the only goal was to maintain R1 status at UWM, and if I said that, I misspoke, and I apologize for that. I think one of the things that we'll need to do is to sit down with Chancellor Money and say, okay, how are we going to do this? Because this is not money that's going to come from the state as a practical matter, I don't think. You know, research dollars have to be driven by, you know, federal government expenditures. They have to be driven by industry-sponsored research. How can we help at the system to achieve that very objective in the same way that Chancellor Mnuchin has got the same challenge in front of her? And then part of the challenge is how do we help UW-Madison try to move into that upper, well, they're already in the upper echelon, but how do we move up, you know, 1 or 2 or 3 spots, which is huge in terms of the research investment. So it's not something that you say that, okay, we get more money from the state, and it's not going to be, you know, it's not going to chase that money's not going to be there to support that research mission per se. We've got, those funds have to be coming from external sources.
Regent Posh.
I think you've done a great job in your presentations and concur with everything you've done and are doing. But I can't get the student out of my mind. And the reason I say that is nationally, you read the articles and I do, of value, what's the value of 4-year education? And so when I reduce that to the smallest common denominator, the question I ask myself, would the university exist if there were no students and just research? Or would the university exist if there was no research and just students? I hope the answer is we can't survive without both. But the students and their learning and their successes will drive the public's and the students, the people's success in Wisconsin. So I think all I recurrent is we do the strategic planning. We do not lose the student as a primary focus of coming up with our plans. So I appreciate what you've done and will do, I'm sure.
Thank you, Regent Posh. I think that's a really good reminder. I think you'll see as we bake this out a bit further, that will come through a bit clearer than it perhaps did today, because you are absolutely right. I mean, it is a primary focus of why we're here is, you know, when you think about it and you go back to the vision, was to produce transformative educational outcomes and to deliver the advancement and creation of new knowledge. Student and research tied together.
All right, I think in the interest of time, we'll close there. Thank you very much on behalf of my fellow regents for this great presentation. And also thank you to chancellors and shared governance folks and everyone who have helped us arrive at this point today. We will be hearing more about this. I look forward to the next presentation, hopefully in December. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Concludes our open session. On behalf of Vice President Bogus, Regent Manydeeds, would you read the motion to move into closed session?
Yes, President Walsh. I move that the Board of Regents move into closed session to consider a compensation adjustment for an individual with a salary that exceeds 75% of the UW system president's salary, as permitted by Section 19.85, parent equals parent, parent equals parent of the Wisconsin statutes.
Regents, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oh, sorry, roll call. Never mind. Yes.
Can't hear you, Megan. Can't hear you.
Yeah. Closer.
No, I know.
I'll straight up to us.
Regent Vice President Bogus. Regent Adams.
Yes.
Regent Atwell.
She's yes, I'm yes.
Regent Bechtel.
Yeah.
Regent Cologne.
Yes.
Regent Jones. Said yes by phone.
Okay.
Regent Manydeeds.
Yes.
Regent Miller.
Here.
Regent Posh.
Sorry.
Regent Peterson.
Yes.
A little bit of glory.
Regent Rye.
Yes.
Regent Stetton.
Yes.
Regent Tucker. Regent Underly. Yes. Regent Walks.
Aye, yes.
And Regent Weatherly.
Yes.